just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And before we get into it, an announcement. KO is sending me over to Perth for UFC 305. That is right. I'm going over to Perth. So KO sending me over, so I'm so stoked, so thankful to our friends over at KO. The card, we got Dricus Duplessis versus Israel Adesanya, Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg. It is an incredible card. Dan Hooker, he guarantees bangers. So just stay tuned for the content leading into that. We're going to have a link to grab the fight over the next few weeks, but I just thought I would announce it. I am being sent over by KO for UFC card 305. Adesanya versus Duplessis is going to be a huge, huge fight. I cannot wait. So stay tuned for that. And as I said, we'll have the link for the fight in the show notes. But outside of that, though, geez, the Olympics. I'm addicted. I'm actually addicted, especially since the track started. Don't get me wrong. I love Aussies in the pool, winning golds, winning medals left, right, and centre. But I tell you what, there's something special about the track. The 100 metres men's was incredible overnight. Then you got the 100 metres women's, first ever medal for St. Lucia, I think the island is incredible. We've also got some Aussies doing some really good stuff in the track. But I have to force myself to turn it off at night. The coverage at the moment has been unbelievable. Like, you can go to the app and there is like 10 different things. You can even watch stuff that's fully produced just without the commentary, like anything. Like, it might be boxing, it might be archery, all going on at the same time. It has been unbelievable. I cannot stop watching it. I'm genuinely excited to hit about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight and be able to get in bed and watch the Olympics. It's been that good. Root, how you been, mate?
I've been good, mate. I was over at Perth for the weekend, went to the Dolphins Roosters, and I found myself walking around the city and found a giant TV screen that had the Olympics on. I sat down and watched, I believe they're called the Gangooroos.
The Gangooroos, yes,
Yeah,
the 3-on-3.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Copyright, trademark infringement.
Yeah, they're in some curry, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
Any CBAs in that team?
There's a couple getting around.
Timmy?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm a bit of a fiend for the swimming when it comes to Olympics, and the way the whole team delivered was just outstanding for us. And the Olympics, it's the best of the best coming together. And overnight, not Aussie related, but we saw Scotty Scheffler, the world's best golfer, coming out with an unbelievable last round to win gold there for America. And then Novak Djokovic as well, 37, 38 years old, whatever he is. He was underdog going into the final against Alcaraz, found a way, won in straight sets. It's just the elite of sport stepping up when it matters.
So good.
Yeah, Olympics has been great. Not as great as today, though. Happy 5'8" day to those who separate. 5th of August every year. Little shout out to all the wonderful 5'8" who have contributed over the years. Any 5'8" you wanted to give a shout out to?
Darren Lockyer. It's Darren Lockyer Day, baby.
Yep.
It's got to be Freddie. Thanks for coming.
Mark McClendon.
Yeah, great one. Honourable mention to Braithen Astor, but Lockie Galvin for me. First of many 5'8" days. Looking forward to a long and prosperous career at West Tigers. But if you see a 5'8" out there today, say good day to him, get around him, celebrate 5'8" day.
Yeah, some results overnight. High jump. We won silver and bronze. So Oslagers and Patterson. Oslagers won silver. Patterson won bronze. 100 metres meet. Noah Lyles. He literally the closest 100 metres, I think, in history. And if you'd watched the documentaries on Netflix Sprint, please go and watch it. It's incredible. Now, Lyles, he's a very boisterous bloke. Not my cup of tea, but pretty incredible that he backed up all that chat to go up and win the Olympics and to do it in the style that he did. Incredible stuff. Swimming, Meg Harris, she won silver in the women's 50-metre freestyle. Australia wins silver in the women's 4 by 100-metre medley. Water polo, Australia's women defeat Hungary in a penalty shootout. And then we got golf. Jason Day finishes T9. Min Woo Lee finishes T22 in the men's individual stroke play. Cycling. Anyway, there's heaps. Go to our Instagram. You can see all the results, as well as Parker. So Katie Parker made history. She became the first ever Aussie woman to win a medal in boxing. So she's guaranteed a bronze in her next fight. But if she wins that, she goes into, obviously, the fight for gold and silver. And the way boxing works is that both semi-final losers get a bronze because they don't fight after losing again. So massive congratulations to Katie. There's so much going on, guys. Go to our Instagram. You can check out the results for the Olympics. But let's get into a bit of Face the Music, shall we? Let's face a bit of the music. Brought to you by Sportsbet. Massive thank you to our friends over at Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. Let's get straight into it.
Keep your suggestions coming as well for our end of season punishment or consequences for Face the Music as well. Some great ones coming in. Kempy, a lot of love for you growing a goatee coming back in some of the comments there.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I noticed that one coming. Someone said visit Canberra, which I thought was a bit harsh. Ooh. I might start taking. I love going back and visiting the folks, but
I thought that was an automatic rule out for everyone. Like we didn't need to say it.
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Too far.
One that I didn't mind. Now, I don't think this is as much of a punishment. This would be a great day out, and there'd be some fantastic content.
Okay.
A day with Hainsey in the chook pen at a chook pen. Kicking off with a haircut with the big man at AC Flow down in Bondi.
So for our audience that don't know who Hainsey is, he's a die-hard Roosters fan.
The heart and soul of the chook pen. Great friend of this show as well. I don't know. I reckon that'd be a great day out.
My favourite of my sons.
But keep him coming. We haven't quite settled on it yet, but some good suggestions coming in. So
I'd be willing to grow a moustache or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to do that.
What would you go with? Would you go with kind of a big handlebar, or what do you?
I don't know. I just missionary. So very, very simple. Very simple. Just get the job done. Or army drill sergeants kind of style.
All right, Kempy's into his facial hair. We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's have a look at the tipping this round. Not too bad from most of the panel. We kick off Tigers 30, defeated by the Cowboys 48 on Thursday night. Everyone took the Cowboys head-to-head, so everyone gets a point. Rue and Kempy, the only two on the panel who had them to cover the 10.5. So shout out to Chris Butler who helped you guys get the.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys have to get him a beer. Then we've got the Warriors 20 defeated by the Eels 30. Nobody had the Eels. Nobody had them. What an upset that was on the first game on Friday. Myself and Rue had them plus 11.5 though, so Rue and myself get a point. Then Dolphins 34 defeated by the Roosters 40 over in Perth. Everyone had the Chooks. The Roo justified his junket over to Perth. He was the only one to come away with 2 points. He had the Roosters head-to-head and the Dolphins plus 9.5. So well done, Guru.
I might have already won this week, just squall.
Settle down.
I might be home early.
Is that an early crow?
Settle down, Guru. Then we got on to Super Saturday. Titans 46 defeat the Broncos 18. Another huge upset. But I just get rugby league. I took the Titans head-to-head. 2 points for me. Get around me. Okay. In the comments, get around me. There we go. Then we've got Rue, Timmy and Kempy. You all took the Titans with the plus 7.5, so you guys get a point. Maddie misses out there. Storm 6, another huge upset. Storm 16, defeated by the Dargans 18. Now, that is the first win that the Dargans have had in Melbourne this millennium.
Holy.
7 Olympiads have passed since the Dargans last won down there. Remarkable stuff. Everybody, so that stands to reason that nobody backed the Dargans head-to-head. Everyone except Timmy took them with the plus 18.5 though. So we all get a point, apart from Timmy, who didn't rate their attack last week on the show, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, well, the Dargans have cost me a few points this year, so I apologise.
Yeah. Sharkies 20 defeat South 6. Everyone took Sharks to win. Souths with the plus 9.5. Timmy correctly went Sharks to win, Sharks to cover, so you get 2 points there, Timmy. Panthers 22 defeat the Knights 14. Everyone got a point for having the Panthers, but we all had the Panthers minus 13.5, so just the 1 point. Doggies versus the Raiders. 2 points for Denon and Roo, who had the Dogs to win, and the Milk with the plus 8.5 points. Everyone else got a point for the Dogs. So
Pretty good tipping this week, boys.
not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. Well, most of us. Roo, well done. Double digits. In fact, defend your title 2 weeks in a row with 11 points.
Thank you.
Denon and yours truly, name a more iconic duo on 9 points. Timmy on 7, and then Matty, West Tigers sort of stuff. 3-peat on the bottom with 6 points.
Oh, my. Oh,
Didn't feel good this week.
Watch this space. It might be Matty in the chook pen before you know it.
yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. Holy.
Round 27 as well, isn't it? So
It is.
it's for the Rabbitohs Roosters game.
Matty in the chook
No.
man.
Oh.
But you're not putting on a jersey. Would you do that if you lose? You're not putting on a jersey.
If I don't have to put on a jersey, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Sweet.
Random South guy in the chook pen. I mean, the content just writes itself.
Oh, that is good stuff. That's
Yep.
Face the Music, brought to you by Sportsbet. Massive thank you as always to our friends at Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. Give Hammy a follow on the feed. He's in the 2,500 about.
Get around me. If you had followed me this weekend, you would have, not only would you have had Titans plus 4.5, but you would have had my Thursday threesome as shared on SEN, paying $2.90 this week. So fill up for all of the Hammy followers on the feed
There you
this
go.
week.
And our bloke in a bar multi nearly got over, didn't it?
Nearly.
Panthers
So we had
let us down, didn't they?
McAvoy in the 53, Kaylee McEwen in the 200-metre backstroke. Panthers 13 plus was that
Panthers, the most likely one, let us down out of a lot.
Correct. And then Jess Fox, she was going for a three-peat as well in the new event. So we missed by a couple, but we've had a couple of good winners there so far.
Okay, there you go. The bloke in a bar multi usually comes about Thursday. Thursday. We try to be as quick as we can. But massive thank you as always to Sportsbet.
Just on feed, before I let people go, I've got to just do a little tease for this. And this one could be a Mumbrella award-winning piece of content coming very soon.
Okay.
Kempy plugging the feed, flew to Melbourne for it last week.
Yes.
Bit of a parody of the old anti-piracy DVD ads.
Yeah,
we just watched
sneak
it in the
peek.
green room before.
Yeah.
Goodness me, not a dry eye in the house.
Yeah. There's a bit of content that was shot down in Sportsbet offices last week. A bit of fun, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. All right, let's get into the Bloke Beer Team of the Week. Powered by Bloke Beer. Beer for blokes that turn up for family, mates and good times. Aussie spirit in a can. Get around it. It is the beer of rugby league. At fullback, we have Kinney. On the wings, we have Fafita and we have Taulangi. Now, Fafita, the game of his freaking life. Unbelievable. At 3, we have Ito. At 4, Critter. Oh, my God, how good was Critter? 6, Brown. 7, Benny Hunt, but hotly contested. We had Walker also there that could have won it. At 8, Tarpanet. 9, Grant. 10, Daniel Saifidi. 11, Sua. 12, David Fafita. 13, Isaiah Yeo. 14, Walker. 15, Buller, who I thought had his best game all year. 16, Madison. And 17, Martin. All right, this week's hungriest player. It is Jess Fox. That is right, Jess Fox. She won 2 gold so far in the Olympics. It's been an incredible performance. The C1 event is the one she won gold in 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And so she backed that up. She's gone back-to-back gold. The K1, that's the big story. She won 3 medals in the kayak in her 3 previous games. But her best result was a silver medal in London. Guess this, in 2012, 12 years ago, 2012, in London, she won a silver. She went silver in 2012, bronze in 2016, and bronze in 2020. And she finally got the gold in Paris. So Jess Fox, from Penrith as well, I think. Yes. I'm pretty sure she's from Penrith. Jess Fox is the hungriest player of the week. Use code FOX to get free delivery. That's right, Fox to get free delivery. As always, guys, takes 2 seconds. Download the app. If you're going to get food to your house, use Menulog. It supports the platform, and they're supporting the platform. So get around Menulog. But yeah, Jess Fox gets it done.
That's gold. Jess Fox.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah, there's going to be a few people that see that code pop up without actually listening to the podcast going like, I don't care, he was good this week. But that's, mate, Jess Fox, named obviously as flag bearer at the start of the Olympics for Australia. She's a freaking national treasure. And like to do it so many Olympics in a row and to be so consistent, she's just incredible and such a pin-up girl for Australian sport across the board. Couldn't have thought of anyone who deserved it more than Jess.
One of the all-time Instagram videos too after it, she's filming herself. She's like, oh man, I got a bit of some bags under my eyes. Like, she pulls up one gold medal, pulls up another gold medal. So Jess Fox, she is the hungriest player this week.
Yeah, and the history keeps coming for Jess Fox. As Rue drew to my attention, the first hungriest player who has ever lodged 0 Supercoach points on a weekend.
There you go.
Outstanding.
Because that was Rue's argument. Rue wanted someone else initially, and that was his argument. It's like Jess Fox had no Supercoach points.
With all due respect to Jess Fox, I stand by it.
So massive congratulations, Jess Fox. Use code FOX for free delivery this week on Menulog. Now, heading into finals footy, we've been in the green room a few weeks and we've had a few blokes with a few hot takes. So we thought, you know what? Let's bring it from the green room onto the show and let's get some hot takes heading into finals footy, whether it be this year or hot takes for the future. And the Roo reckons he's got a hot take, and I want to hear what the Roo's hot take is this year.
All right, this one's spicy. And it's going to be down to the future. Now, at the moment, there's been a bit of chat. Obviously, we're going to be naming more immortals in the game to come soon.
Yep.
I've got a guy I want to throw in there. Obviously, Nathan Cleary is the obvious one that could do it. I want to throw in Stephen Crichton.
What?
23 years of age right now. Got 3 premierships to his name already. Got one of the biggest moments in rugby league history, the intercept in the grand final. Taken Samoa all the way to that World Cup final. I think he's going to be part of the New South Wales system for the foreseeable future. Currently turning the Canterbury Bulldogs around. If he manages to win, like he's 23, he's got 12 years left, potentially? 10 years, let's say. If he manages to be the guy to pull the Canterbury Bulldogs out of this dark place and end this premiership drought, I reckon Critter's going to get damn close to it. I really do.
Wow. So you're calling Critter as the next immortal after Nathan Cleary?
Not the next immortal, but I think he, behind Nathan Cleary, has got the best chance at being an immortal. And I think if he wins comps with Canterbury, I think he can get there.
Holy.
If he was 27, it's a different conversation. But at 23 with 10 years to go, is he right now? I look at what he's done with the Canterbury Bulldogs in such a short span of time. Like, he's one of the most influential players in the game already.
Wow. That is spicy as it comes.
You asked for spicy.
That is spicy as it comes. Look, I think it's just too early. It's just too early to make that call. And look, no one loves Critter more than me. Well, clearly there is one person. I love Critter, and I think that he's had an incredible career. I think that, I was like one of the first people to think that he was going to be a leader at the Bulldogs, all that stuff. But I think it's just way too early to even consider immortal. Wow, that's a big call. Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, look, early thoughts are Roo has rocks in his head, but that's nothing too unusual. The most difficult thing for Stephen Crichton is doing it from centre. When we look at someone, like I know he came through an unbelievable era, but someone like Greg Inglis, who had just all the success in the world, NRL rep level, did it all largely, at centre, obviously fullback towards the back end of his career. It'd have to be a phenomenal run to do it as a centre in the modern game with all the blokes over the last decade or so who have put their hand up for immortal status.
Like Greg Inglis, for example.
Greg Inglis, for example, who's, I don't think he's going to be an immortal, and he's probably a few rungs off it from his own era. Like Stephen Crichton has to be phenomenal. I suppose that the question back, how many premierships with the Dogs would he have to win to genuinely get into conversation?
And this is what I'm saying. Like, you look at GI, it's a tremendous career. 2 premierships. I mean, Critter's 4 years into his career, he's got 3, and he's already lost a grand final as well. Like, if he goes on to be the captain of the Bulldogs for a few premierships, and look, like what you're saying is correct, it's very early. That's why it's a hot take. But in the next 10 years, if he can turn Canterbury around and turn them into a premiership force again and be that influential figure and the captain of that side, like if he wins 2 comps here, you're going, okay, he's a centre with 5 premierships.
Well, you're basically, by saying that, well, for him to become an immortal from centre, you're essentially, he has to be the greatest outside back of all time. Because I can't see, I think Critter's incredible, but if GI can't be immortal, geez, he'd have to do something so crazy to do it.
Inglis had 3 or 1, depending on who you talk to. Premiership.
I'll give you one little thing that might get him over the line. I think he probably needs to get a couple of premierships under the belt for the Dogs. But the one thing that could clinch it for him is if he won a World Cup with Samoa. Because that grows the game, ticks a big box that, it'd be great if we can get a couple of the other nations kind of getting up there with the Kangaroos as well. So if he could do that as well as, let's say, 5 premierships throughout his career and a couple of Origin Shields, you can start to mount a pretty good case for him.
And once again, he's 23 and he's only fallen a game short of that.
But also I think premierships, numbers of premiership, there's plenty of blokes that have had like 5 premierships that aren't an immortal. So I reckon that shouldn't be...
Not in the modern era, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not like 5 premierships there's not a lot of guys that have done that. There's no one in the comp right now that's got more than 3, I think.
Well, put it this way, like Darren Lockyer people question whether he should get more. Like, he's being questioned, and he has like 4 premierships. He's got multiple different positions that you could look at and go, the GOAT in that position.
8 Origin Shields as well, or the bulk of them.
But like, I think if you go back and you look at Darren Lockyer's career, like at age 23, I think Critter's achieved more than what he had at that point. I just think as his career goes on, and if he starts to achieve things, you will then, like if he's got 10 years now, or if he wins a couple of comps, you look back and go, well, he's already got 3 under his belt. He's got one of the biggest players in grand final history.
But you could, the thing with the 3 under your belt, you could argue you can make against that is like whoever was in that Penrith side, almost lucky to be in that situation at that time.
I'll add another layer to it. If the Penrith, and I don't think it will, but if the Penrith dynasty finally ends when he's not there, it starts to add to it as well. Because yes, it's a stacked team, but he's come up with, like, they don't win the 21 grand final without him. He comes up with one of the greatest players of all time to win that grand final. He played a huge role in the 22 grand final and the 23 grand final. Like, I don't know if they beat you guys in that comeback.
Who do you reckon's a better outside back at 23 years old, Greg Inglis or Stephen Crichton? I think Greg Inglis.
Yeah, I reckon Critter puts up a pretty good fight.
Okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think Hammy's hit the nail on the head. Like when we look at Immortals and that debate, you have to have changed the game in some way, one way or another, like be a pioneer for your position or whether it's doing something off the field, obviously related to footy, but if he was to captain like Samoa to a World Cup win, that'd be the one where when they're adjudicating the future and deciding future Immortals, they'd go, this bloke did the unthinkable and took Samoa to a World Cup victory. That could be the one.
Oh, there it is. There it is, Ruse. Spicy, spicy hot take. I love it. I love it.
Back to the Rucha.
They're going to look back to this moment. I tell you what, if it happens, it'll be one of the greatest calls of all time.
It's a long shot, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I just feel like he's built such an impressive resume already. And what he's doing at Canterbury is incredible at the moment.
Critter is so hot right now, as the great Hansel would say. No, sorry. What was it? Mugatu?
Yeah.
He was the great Mugatu would say, Critter's so hot right now.
Great seg name. So hot right now.
There you go. I tell you what, we can all agree, Critter absolutely killing it right now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable talent. Alrighty, let's get into the round 22 review. Cowboys defeat the Tigers 48-30. Look, this game for me was actually, I took more of it for the Tigers than I did the Cowboys. The Cowboys are so frustrating because they have these really, really good wins and they're still getting wins by a pretty substantial margin. So it's hard to knock them. But then when you look at it and you go, well, as premiership threats, heading into finals footy, we're only like 5-6 weeks away. You can't be letting the Tigers score 30 points, especially when you had a man up for that amount of time. But I've been guilty of being critical of the Cowboys mid-season, almost looking at them going, oh, it's a bad year, it's a disaster year, when in reality, they were banking up wins and they're within striking distance of the top four. But I just think when I look at it and I go, okay, Cowboys, good win, got the job done, but they just have to find that little extra step to become ruthless to be able to put a team like the Tigers away. From the Tigers' perspective, I thought it was a bloody good game for them. Showed so much fight, so much ticker. Yeah, okay, they had 48 points scored against them. That's obviously not a good thing. But for them to score 30 points, to still show fight, still hang in the match, I thought there was a lot to take away from that. Obviously, the big talking point, was it a send-off? I personally believe, just my opinion, I believe it was a send-off. I believe that quite reckless from Olam. He had quite a big target area where he could have hit. I think that when I first saw it from the initial angles, I was like, geez, like that might not even hit him in the head. I don't even know if that's 10 in the bin. Then when you see the back angle, that's when I was like, no, I think that's a send-off. And I know people go, that's soft and blah, blah, blah. I get it, guys. I wish the game was what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I get all that. But under the new rules, when we're trying to look out for player safety, when we've got the big boogeyman of CTE hanging over the game and all that kind of stuff, we have to make an effort to try and get these shots out of the game. So I do believe it was a send-off.
My initial reaction was, Cross, that's such a big call in this game. And my initial reaction was, geez, send-off's a bit tough. But when you watch the replay and just the understanding we have of the modern rules and the way that we're approaching this, I think the ref was left with no choice.
Like direct, forceful, and it was quite I don't know, it was reckless, but it was close to reckless.
Exact same, boys. My initial thoughts were penalty, potentially a sin bin. Then just the more I looked at it and looking at it as we speak, and there's direct contact, shoulder to the head, as it was very much forceful. And if you look at Olam, he's almost standing upright. Like, there's no effort to get lower and hit him around the chest or around the waist, whatever it is. It was just reckless every way you look at it. So, I mean, you summed it up, Kempy. It is what it is these days. 10 years ago it was soft. Nowadays, it's just par for the course.
Mm.
Watching it live, I was like, oh... I was there at the ground, obviously, but I thought the play didn't go down, didn't stay down. It almost looked like the game was going to play on, and then it almost felt like the referee got a call in his ear from the bunker, which obviously they had made their call. Look, I still think maybe could we have had a sin bin in that situation rather than a full-blown send-off. It just the game was done from that point. And I think on the scale of ones that we've seen this year, wasn't great, but it wasn't one of the worst. But yeah, I mean. What do you do?
What do you do?
You really jinxed it last week when you praised the Tigers for not having a player sin bin.
Well, the disappointing thing as well is that it was Olam's first game back in a month or something like that. And now he's probably gone, potentially out for the rest of the
Well, Matty's
season.
got a different opinion.
Yeah, no, I thought it should have been a sin bin purely because I just think it completely ruined the game. And I didn't think it was I didn't think it was so atrocious that it should be a send off. But at the same time, I completely understand why it is. And if you look at the bigger picture, CTE and all that stuff, then we got to get it out of the game. So I'm definitely not married to it. I just didn't like that the 80 minutes was so greatly affected by something that I didn't think was so atrocious, personally. And also, if he got sin binned, they scored 3 tries in that 10 minutes anyway. So that's a huge punishment enough, I think.
Yeah. So there you have it. Let us know what you think in the comment section, guys. Obviously, keep it respectful. But yeah, I think it was a send off. I just think we can't have that in the game anymore. I wish that we could. I wish that, like, in a perfect world, he goes for 10 in the bin. The game is still competitive. But as I said, at the end of the day, I think that we have to look at the broad picture in those scenarios. And would I rather the game keep a semblance of the toughness that we have with losing those shots than, in 10 years, if we keep having these shots happen and then something down the line kind of like, whether it's an ex-player or whatever comes out and says, oh, look at all these instances where you didn't do something about it, therefore, I'm going the legal route. I just think we just got to try to find a way to get rid of it.
Which is what you've seen in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's been a nightmare.
And so we just got to find a way to walk a really fine line between not ruining the fabric of the game, because I definitely don't want that, but at the same time being in those situations where it's like totally direct, could have been avoided. He didn't bend his back literally at all. I think, unfortunately, it's just good to go. Now, in regards to performances, we'll talk about the Tigers first. As I said, I thought the Tigers looked really good. They played some really high tempo footy. I thought Dream Buller had easily the best game of the season. He looked dangerous, and I was actually at points like almost quite surprised at how dangerous the Tigers did look. I genuinely thought there were moments in this game where the Cowboys were under the pump. Matter of fact, before the sin bin, I actually thought the Tigers were winning back momentum. I think they were a try down at that stage, maybe like 16-10, something along those lines. And I really felt that the Tigers had wrangled back momentum and the Cowboys were being complacent, like they were taking it easy, thinking that, oh, you know what, they'll get back into the game, but we'll be able to turn things around. And I think the Tigers really took it to them. I think there's a lot of positives to take out, like Johansson. I thought he's, got a lot to like there. I think also the Porter, the back rower, we were speaking in the green room. He's about 26, 27 years old. I think he's a Cook Island player. A really good sign. Like we've focused on the players that haven't played well at the Tigers recently, but I think Benji, and rightly so, Benji, you've got to criticise or be critical of that with Benji. But also, I think you've got to look at some of the players that have been playing really well under Benji, like Fainu, Galvin, and now Porter. Like that's a good thing. That's a good thing for a coach to at least have some players that are responding to his coaching style.
I was stoked to see, and read into it however you want, but like this whole John Bateman situation, for them, the 2 back rowers to come out this weekend and have probably the best games of their careers I've seen so far. I'd love to see that.
Porter and Fainu?
Yeah. I thought they were both tremendous. Ruben Porter, who's sort of been in and out of first grade this year in bits and pieces. As, Timmy pointed out in the green room, I reckon that was by far and away the best game he's played.
Oh, easily. Like, his offload to Buller was outstanding.
It was, yeah, Buller. Jeez, doesn't he just... And it's not uncommon for players in their first year to explode and then go a little bit quiet. He has been a little bit like that this year, but the other night, just a good reminder of the game-breaking ability he has.
Yeah, they were right in this game, the Tigers, up until the send-off. I mean, they'd conceded 3 tries to that point after 49 minutes. Then they conceded 5 tries with Justin Olam in the bin. And look, a side like the Cowboys, who was such a good attacking outfit, they were pushing shit uphill to defend their back end of the game. But so they were right in the game, a lot that they can be pretty proud of. And as you said, while there's still a few concerns around defence, they did have excuses and just had lots of really good individual performances. And you mentioned Ruben Porter. I had him in my team of the week. I thought he was outstanding. He's just big boy, but he's very agile. He moves well. He's got good late footwork at the line. He showed a bit of his skill set with that offload, I think, for the Buller one as well. He was fantastic. And as you said, Finer as well on the other edge. 2 lethal edge back rowers and pretty promising signs for them moving forward.
Can't wait to see Fainu with Luai.
Yeah.
And I'd assume Luai will go... I'm assuming Fainu will go wherever Luai is. you'd have to be. I mean, surely you're going to put Fainu with Luai.
Galvin's combined pretty well with him this year with not a lot around him. And he put him over for the first try. Seemed like every time they went left, like something started happening. Galvin and Buller really cut him up there a couple of times. And obviously Fainu got 2 tries as well. But, I don't know. I think the boys really dug in when obviously they conceded 3 tries in the 10 minutes after the sin bin. But after that, they went on a little bit of a tear as well. They scored, in the 59th, 62nd and 75th minute. Conceded a bit of a junk time try as well. I thought they had a real rip when they were a player down. It reminded me a bit of the Blues in game 1 when they lost a player. Like, it just brought probably the best out of him. You know, they had a real dig. And I thought the Cowboys, to be honest with you, were fairly unconvincing. Yeah, it's a win. But I don't know. I thought our boys had a real good go at them.
Just on the West Tigers, like, I'll tell you what, whenever Appy plays halfback, I think he looks sensational there.
That's another thing that the Tigers. So they got a man sent off, and they lost their halfback 18 minutes in.
Mate, and like when you've got talent, and I know it's not obviously the right option for the Tigers long term, but for the back end of this season, like if instead of trying to pick all these different halfbacks each week, do you give Talon Silver an opportunity to play good minutes at 9, get some experience, and maybe use Appy there at 7?
I guess it all just depends on Appy, really. Like, if Appy is Appy to play there,
Nice.
then why not? Because De Silva, I mean, the more minutes he gets, the better for the club, especially next year. And also, like, Appy, if he gets injured next year, you want to have a guy ready to go. You want a guy with experience. It's played a bunch of minutes. So I can't see why not. And I'm just trying to think, like, so Fainu head knock. So he should be back. Should be back next week, you just say?
So it depends if it was Cat 1 or not, he'll miss out. But I think
if you miss a game, if you come straight off and you don't come back on, I think you're probably automatically.
Only if it's deemed Category 1. You can be Category 2 and fail your HIA and still be available next week, but Category 1's...
I think at such a young age, like, it's not worth rushing him back.
Well, I think Caesar's back from suspension next week, so he'll come in and you'd imagine partner Galvin in the halves, but... I think you need to be building towards next year, and I understand the shout of Talon De Silva playing starting number 9, but it's very important that, let's say Fainu does miss out on this week, you can play Latu Fainu and Lockie Galvin there together, whoever they think will be next up if Galvin goes down next year, or Jerome Luai. Build on that. I think the way to do it is start Appy at hooker. It's too important. Just give Talent a few more minutes. Play him at 14, have a 50-30 split or something. He'll still get good experience out of that, but I don't think you want to change things up too much from what the team will be round 1 next year.
I think
it says Latu Fainu back round 24, so he should miss this week.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to have, even if it doesn't suit your rotation for the rest of the year, I do think you've got to have Silver on the bench though for the rest of the year. Because just like what you were mentioning with, if someone gets injured next year, you want to have those halves with as much minutes under your belt. Just like with Appy. Put it this way, in all my key positions, I'd be doing whatever I can to make sure that the backups for that, the rookies, have as many minutes as possible towards the end of the year.
Yeah. I even, just as someone just sitting back watching the game, I love watching Appy when he does jump into 7.
He's so creative.
And he just does it a little bit different to all, like, obviously he's a 9 playing halfback, but his timing of his passes, and I find it so entertaining to watch him play.
I think, speaking of the timing there, you mentioned Dream Buller, who had his best game of the year. He was outstanding in this one, and he went through a real lull. There was a bit of second-year syndrome going on for the best part of this season, but his last month he's been a lot better. And I mentioned last week how off Roger Tavasicek's timing was at fullback on the sweep plays. Buller, I find, is really getting his timing right on that sweep play, and he's just nailing it because he's blistering. Because of his blistering speed, especially over sort of 5-10 metres, he's doing so much damage. And again, it's just combinations and getting used to the players around you, the lead runner, the half that's feeding you the ball. He's really working that out. So really good signs for him.
Yeah, great signs. Because the last thing you want is, I mean, the good thing for Buller is usually when a rookie has that second year, which is not as good, he's not in the headlines as much, he's not the hero, and Galvin is the hero, and all the attention's off him. It actually takes them the whole season and another preseason to get their groove back. What I like with Buller is we've actually seen him get his groove back in that same season, which just shows you that, you know, he's clearly working on his... Because, like, I think there's some players that almost, as soon as the season starts, it's not that they don't stop working on their game, but a focus of their training isn't about improvement. It's more about just being able to play each week. And I think you're looking at Buller, and clearly he's been working on his timing. Because I remember, what was it, about 6 weeks ago, we were going like, geez, like, Buller's ball playing is just like not at an NRL standard or at the very least, it's not at the standard that we thought it'd be at. But I think he's improved. Like, what was it? At least one of his tries was purely off his line, swinging around the. It might even been two of his tries. No, sorry. One of them definitely was swinging out the back, and he gassed Townsend. Might even been. No, that was a short ball. So at least one of them. So that's a good sign for the Tigers that he's getting that timing right around the back.
And I just want to see, and not saying he doesn't do it, but just sniff around the rack and wait for opportunities. Much like when we speak of sort of Terrell Sloan and what he's trying to add to his game a little bit more. But the best fullbacks in the game are just tremendous support players. And you've got Api Coruscant, who is arguably the most creative number 9 in the competition, playmaking around the rack. Just get in there with him, work on those combinations, because Appy creates so much carnage through the middle. And if he can be there off the back, they've got a few big boys in the pack as well, a few good offloading forwards, he's going to do a lot of damage.
Jeez, Appy, he's so offbeat, Appy. Like, everything he does is, like, out of rhythm with the way rugby league is usually played. Like, when you think he's going to zig, he zags. He is truly a beauty to watch. Tim Johansson, the rookie, and like, you look at his stats and you're not going to be blown away from him. But I genuinely really liked what I saw. Just his strength in contact, quite a tall guy as well.
Yeah.
Good physically.
Swiss background.
Yeah, like that.
Big utility, Swiss Army knife. do a job for you. And the flag's a big plus as well.
Oh, that's one of your best.
Coming hot today, mate.
Yeah, very red hot. So, yeah, good stuff. I also liked the Tigers after all the news with Stefano. They didn't allow that to kind of like derail them. And again, we're talking like they won. But again, you got to take your little wins where you can get them. I thought they showed a lot of grit. Now, onto the Cowboys. As I said, like, the Cowboys that we think are premiership threats, they should really be putting the Tigers aside. I felt like the whole game, they were kind of playing like, look, when we can turn it on, we'll turn it on and we'll win this game, which, to be fair, it's kind of true. Like, when they did decide to go, you know what, boys, let's roll the sleeve up, let's complete, kick deep, get some line speed and win field position, they could really do it by a flick of the switch. But obviously you want to be better than that. Some negatives, and I really am interested to see what they do, but the defence between Townsend and Vilea, like, geez, that was poor. Like, they were so out of sync, and rightly so. Like, Vilea and Townsend haven't played that much footy together, but they were genuinely, like, if that's how they're going to be, like, heading into finals footy, they're going to get torn apart. I thought that was a real concern. Just
trying to get his stats up, but Tommy Chester played Queensland Cup over the weekend and had one of the greatest games of all time. Just about. I'll find the stats for you.
He ran for like 455 metres.
No way.
Yeah.
From fullback, obviously?
Had to be, surely. The defensive issues around that one, Kempy, like, I think it was Chad Townsend at fault for the first 2 tries of the game that the Tigers scored, and then there's real issues there. And then you go to the other edge, and I feel like I'm talking about this every week, but Val Holmes as well. He had Far Tape, went through him twice. One that should have been a try, except there wasn't a drawn pass on the fullback. Then only a set or two later, Far Tape went straight through him again, and it's with a player of his class. I mean, a bloke who in my head was always one of the better defensive centres in the competitions. You go, he's in a bit of a lull, he'll bounce back, he's a champion. Mate, it's not getting any better anytime quick.
Well, we've been saying that all year pretty much about his defence. It's like, oh, no, this is Val Holmes we're talking about. It's going to get good. But
it's gone from being a blip to like, no, it's a major area of concern for him and the Cowboys.
Tom Chester on the weekend at fullback, 2 tries, 27 runs, 422 run metres, 113 post contact, 5 line breaks, 3 try assists, 1 line break assist.
What position?
Fullback.
Jesus, have to get those stats up later. I have to put them up on socials.
2 errors.
Have to get that up on socials. That's incredible.
Spud.
2 errors. What a bum. So I do think that the Cowboys' edge defence needs to get sorted, because I really do feel like their ruck defence has improved dramatically over the last 6 weeks or so, and a lot of the tries that not a lot, but a few of the tries they let in, like, this is just basic defence. Like, the one where Buller just slid through between Townsend and Vilea, like, that wasn't because Buller is like Usain Bolt. Like, every edge defence knows that at the very least, they score in the corner. So if that means that the centre has to jam in on the sweep player and then the winger has to jam in and then they score in the corner, that is so much better than them scoring in between the 3-in defender and the centre. So that's now the question I guess is Vailea, is he their number one centre going forward towards finals footy? That's the question, I guess.
And I'm not sure. And the concerns there around it, Kempies, do you feel weird being a bit or a bit tough being critical of a side who's put 48 points on, but we know the Cows got points in them, but we're seeing these recurring themes with their edge defence, and they conceded 3 tries when Justin Olam was off the field against 12 blokes.
Yeah.
Like, for a team who, they put themselves in a position to play finals footy and be a threat come September, there's some pretty serious issues edge defensively.
Which is, again, I feel almost silly talking about it because I unfairly was too harsh on them in the middle of the year because they were getting wins. You know what I mean? Like, in the middle of the year, I was talking like, as I said, I was talking like Toddy Payton's job might be under pressure. And right now, they're on 28 points with a game in hand. So they will be equal with the Sharks once their bye, occurs. So they're basically top 4 right now. So it's almost like, am I being too harsh on the Cowboys?
They finished 11th last year. They're now in 6th, and part of me still feels a little bit disappointed just in their performances.
It's so weird.
But they've also got a bye to come. I think it's only them and the Roosters left with byes in that. So they're really not that far off the top 4.
And then I feel like if they just fix a few things on their edges, they are a genuine top 4 side.
Yeah. You mentioned there, Vailea obviously playing centre, and I mean, like Tom Chester's now available. They've had Braden Burns at the club for a few weeks. They've only ever played him on the wing. They've never played him at centre. He's now playing centre in reserve grade, so they have got a few options there.
Okay, so here is actually an interesting stat, and this is probably why we're going, this feels off. Things feel strange with the Cowboys. So in the top 14, they have the worst points against. So they've got 486 points against. Dragons have 482. They're in the top 8. Dolphins have 448. Raiders have 459. Titans 478, 437 with the Knights, 454 for the Warriors, 475 for the Broncos. They have 486. Wow. So their defense right now is the 15th best or 14th best in the competition. So that's where you... Now, to be fair though, I think that if you took a sample size from the last 8 weeks compared to the 8 weeks before that, I think you'd find that they would be better.
Yeah, it's day and night. And that's why you saw these sort of just old issues crop up. But prior to this week, 22 points against the Sharks, 18 against the Dogs, 21 against Manly, 6 against Penrith, who are heavily undermanned, 16 against the Raiders. So, it's improved a lot. It was just they can't creep back into what was happening earlier in the year.
Some positives. I think Taulungi's come back with a vengeance. Jeez, when I talk about Daniel Tupou being one of the most underrated wingers of all time, I almost talk about his body of work for his whole career. But I got to say, Taulungi, for where he's at, Origin winger, gets that spot every single year, plays extremely well in Origin every single year. He gets nowhere near the appreciation he deserves. And ever since he's come back for the Cowboys he's playing the intensity, his size and power in contact. It's up there with the best wingers in the comp.
It was even the start of this Origin series. A lot of people questioned if he was an automatic there, and I reckon he's one of those guys. The same thing will happen for Origin next year. People will question it, but I just think he has to be there.
He is a genuine problem on the edge.
That combination of him and Val is just getting better and better by the week. They are so in sync right now with ball in hand. Again, defence maybe a few issues, but even defensively on the edge, I feel like it's just bad misses more than anything. But with ball in hand, so good.
Well, you look at it, ball in hand, 3 tries for Taulungi, a try for Val Holmes, and 2 try assists for Val. So they basically had their hand in 4 of the tries for the Cowboys directly came from them.
I think they had 2 taken off them too that went upstairs. Yep. They did the same thing the week before.
So yeah, Taulungi for me, he's a beast. And I want to see how big he is in person because I feel like he'd be about 6'3", 100. Actually, we worked it out on Packer Up Boys. He's about 103 kilos, isn't he? That's huge. But you don't actually, again, I think it's because he's such a kind of chill dude, I guess. You don't see him as that kind of big bully winger, but he is. He's 103 kilos on the wing is massive. And what's special about Taulungi as well is he's not just a big battering ram. He has silky playing, flick passes, really good footwork, great under the high ball. I think Taulagi, since he come back, has been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been sensational.
Tommy Dearden, thought he was great.
Yep. Well, we've spoken about a few defensive issues for the Cowboys. Tom Dearden, not one of them. 18 tackles, none missed. And another sort of trademark Tom Dearden chased down. Buller made the break, gave it back into Galvin. And who was there, of course, it was Tom Dearden who took him down. I think that's just, he's got the C next to his name, the captaincy, but his leadership, like, a lot of it's by the actions that he does, and he comes up with those big plays so often where he's just not giving up, and it just gives the team such a lift. So, I thought he was outstanding again.
Well, when you take in like his performance in Origin 3, how good he was defensively, and his last few games at the Cowboys, he's had a huge month. He's sort of flown under the radar a little bit, Tommy Dearden.
He's had a bloody good year. I tell you, like, the Cowboys, when you talk about player of the season for them, it's probably Tommy Dearden. It's probably
Good
Tommy
Dearden,
Dearden.
would you say?
Hey?
Tom Good Dearden.
You came in with a hot start, mate, and you just come crashing down.
Another bloke who I really find he's finding his groove in attack, Scotty Drinkwater.
Oh,
Jeez,
goodness.
he is silky. He is so silky.
We were talking about like doing team of the weeks, and I don't think Scotty Drinkwater's name was thrown up at all, but he ended up with 2 tries to his name, 8 tackle busts, a try assist. It's just like same thing every week.
And also the try assist that he has, though, and the tries that he has, it's almost magic in his hands. He works in genuine inches.
Yeah.
Like the try assist, that kick, to catch it quickly like that and put it on the boot at an angle like that, not only do you have to get the angle right, you've only got about, like, that ball has to land in a space of like 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres. Otherwise, it's too deep and the fullback gets there, or it goes out, or it's too shallow and the cover defence gets there. He is silky player.
Got some of the best touch in rugby league.
Easy. We're talking about, like, who is the best ball-playing fullback, and he's absolutely in the top 3. Like him, Latrell, maybe KP, they're all up there.
Yeah. Mate, a guy that I thought was really good, and they've got this host of just back rowers that are always putting their hand up, putting in good games. Harrison Edwards played pretty much the entire first half. He finished with about 30 tackles and 100 metres in that first half. Didn't miss a beat, replacing Reuben Cotter in that role. He only got about 10 minutes in the second half, but I thought in the first half he was fantastic.
Yeah. And I think Griffin Neem's also been playing really good for him as well. The good thing is like, we haven't really mentioned it, but they are missing Reuben Cotter and Taumalolo.
Yep.
Huge losses.
They are the heart and soul of that forward pack.
Well, we've had concerns about their middles and stacking up against, not so much the Tigers, but the better sides this season. And then you take arguably their 2 most important middle forwards out of their team.
Yep. So, yeah. Like, if I'm looking at the Cowboys and going where I thought they'd be at the start of the year, and the fact that they're basically in the top 4, solid win, shouldn't have leaked 30 points. But if I'm looking at it from a premiership threat, if they just tweak just a few tiny tweaks, they can be absolutely a premiership threat this year.
Yep.
They would be. I'd have the tier of your Storm, your Penrith, your Roosters, and then under that tier, that's the tier I'd have them in at the moment. The Cowboys, with the ability to take that step up if they do tweak those minor things.
Christ, that'd be a team you don't want to play in the finals, though.
Mate, especially with like Scotty Drinkwater, fine and form, Tommy Dearden.
Well, they might have the odd defensive issue or resurfaced a little bit, but there's no reason why they couldn't beat you in a final 48-30 because, geez, they've got some attack in them.
Unbelievable attack. Alrighty, don't forget, all 8 games are live and ad-free during play on KO. Some key games this week are Titans v Sharks, Raiders v Manly, Cowboys v Broncos, exclusive to Fox League and available on KO. Massive thank you to our friends over at KO. And as I said, guys, KO are sending me over to Perth for UFC 305. I cannot wait. Eels defeat the Warriors 30-20. Down to the Warriors, going down to the Eels. Warriors having a few big ins, obviously Johnson being one of them. But the Eels get the job done. Eels, Moses not being a part of the squad, obviously going over. And I don't think anyone in the NRL saw this coming. I thought that everyone expected the Warriors with the season on the line to get the job done. But the Eels turn up and play incredibly well to beat the Warriors. And I've got to say, like, the good thing for the Eels is that yes, their season is over and it's been an absolutely devastating season, all that stuff. But the positive is that if they can keep this up towards the end of the year, because we have to remember last week, they really took it to the Melbourne Storm in the first half. The positive for Eels fans is if they keep doing this, it shows that it's not like they're a club that needs a complete roster overhaul. They just need some tweaks with game plans and a couple of players here or there, and they could be straight back into finals footy very quickly. So I thought it was an outstanding performance. I thought Dylan Brown, when he got moved to 7, I don't like him playing 7. But one thing you can't knock this year for Dylan Brown has been his effort. I think every game he has tried his absolute heart out, and this was a game where he really got a reward for it.
The Parramatta Eels just a tipping comp's nightmare at the moment. I am so confident as soon as I back them to win their next game, they'll lose that one. But Dylan Brown, mate, I think it's just so simple for Dill. Just run the football. I think that, earlier in the year he tried to play a real sort of traditional halfback role. I think you just got to let Dill just run. And I think that the best footy comes off the back of that.
Told to do that
100% he would have, yeah, which I get why, because you're trying to replace Mitch Moses. But you just got to let him just go out and do his thing.
I'm in a tipping comp, speaking of, with mates, and you get jokers, double point round, and I took one of them, you get 2 a year, I took one of them this week. I'm thinking Eels, season done, going over to the NZ, sell out crowd, Warriors playing for them, like, just take those points straight to the bank. Mate, come on. Parramatta, as I said, all those factors mentioned, Warriors playing for everything in this game, crowd going bonkers. And the Eels, without Mitch Moses, without Hopgood, without Junior Borlo, put in an unbelievable performance. And you just don't know whether I wanted to be happy for their fans or frustrated for them. Where's this been all season? But look, on the standalone game, a terrific performance. And as you said, Kempy, season's done and dusted. And to get up and put in a performance like that, you've got to be happy looking on. Yeah,
and as I said, last week against the Storm, they took it to them. They genuinely had the Storm rattled. And so with this Eel side, I agree with you, Timmy. It's if you're a glass half empty kind of guy, you're sitting there going, where the hell has this been? Why has it taken all this drama, people getting sacked, blah, blah, for this to happen? But if you're a glass half full guy, you're kind of going, all right, bit of a down year. The positive is just a couple of tweaks. We'll put it this way. Their footy for the last 4 weeks or so, or however many weeks, has been essentially top 8 level footy. And so it's they aren't that far away. A few tweaks to their squad. I think some positives as well is if you thought the great Gutho was done, there's another thing coming, because the great Gutho is not done. He had a try assist, 23 runs, 225 metres, 3 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 3 offloads, and he was outstanding, Gutho at the back there. And I do think it sucks losing Blaze Talangi, and it's looking like he'll land at Penrith. But if it is true that he's landing at Penrith, I think that it's one of those situations where it seems like that they're probably saying to him, if you have a big preseason, you'll play 6. And that's where I go to Eels fans. It's there's not much you could have done. Are you really going to say to Blaze Talangi, oh, you're going to have Dylan Brown's jersey next year? No, you're not going to do that. And so if he does land at Penrith and it is the 6 jersey, it's just one of those things where timing wasn't on your side. And we have to remember, you are getting Zach Lomax next year. And Zach Lomax is way further along in his career than Blaze at the moment. An outside backs a centre pairing of Will Pensini and Zach Lomax is pretty bloody good. Who stood out for you boys for the Eels?
Just on Gutho too, mate. He made a big play at the end of that game where Dallin Watene-Zelezniak was over. Just had to put the ball down, and Gutho knocked the ball out of his hands. Went over the sideline, and there was only 3 minutes left, but they were on a bit of a run there. If he would have got that ball across it, we could have had a close game all of a sudden. Well, they had a player off the field too. It was a big play, I thought.
Well, I wrote in my notes here, last 10 minutes, all of a sudden the Warriors start playing with intensity. And I also said Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, that last play sums up the Warriors season. Complacent, going, all the talent, all these opportunities. Think about the amount of games we've watched with the Warriors where they have had all the field position, they've been attacking lines, and it's just that last play of complacency or laziness or just losing focus that cost them, whether it's a try, whether it's a game. And I felt like that DWZ was one of them.
There was 2 plays that were like that for me. There was that one and the Lussick try early. That was a dummy half that scooted from 10 metres out off one of the slowest play the balls you've ever seen and ducked over. Like, the Warriors at home playing for this season, Christ, it was disappointing.
Well, you sit there and mention how big a game it was for the Warriors this season on the line. I had another one that summed up their season for me. This is the third one in the space of about 30 seconds, but it was the Dejan Arce try. The Sean Johnson, 5 minutes before half-time, big moment in the game. Sean Johnson, short dropout, and Eels caught it. Gutho drifted across field, and the whole right edge, essentially, for the Warriors didn't push up in the defensive line. They were just like, there's about 4 of them just scattered across about a different 30-metre area. Gutho just went, boom, was waiting for it. Arce hit this mad line, scored a good try, and you go, that's like under 10 stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to the Warriors.
You started, mate.
Yeah, I know. Apologies. But yeah, Gutho, that match-winning match-saving try, incredible. And another big plus for the Eels, VB hard-earned index, 4 out of the 5 players were Eels players, which is, again, that's all just effort. That's pure effort. And they're playing for essentially nothing, when it comes to a season. Obviously, they're playing for their contracts. They're playing for pride. It's their job. It's really good signs that an Eels side can go over to New Zealand and play like that. Who stood out for you, Hammy?
A couple of the big fellas. I reckon big Ryan Madison had one of his better games in the last little while. I like big Matto at lock as well. I reckon he's a underrated kind of user of the footy as well. But he just did a lot of work on the weekend. 145 metres, 51 post contact, 39 tackles, the 1 miss. I thought he was very good. Discussed at length in the green room about maybe team of the week honours as well.
Yeah.
I thought Joe O was good as well, mate. He's been a little bit hit and miss over the last few years for Parramatta, but I thought he was solid in this game along with Madison.
Yep.
I like the Eels hookers, the rotation. I thought Lusk and Hands were both had some of the better games of the season. And, going up against a big Warriors pack, Hands in particular had a couple of massive defensive plays. There was one to drag a bloke back in goal, another one to force an error with a nice shot. They were huge.
I guess the biggest question for the Eels is, like, why so inconsistent? Like, what is happening at training, or what is happening with the culture or the mentality as to why that they can perform like this, where everyone is on board, everyone's making big plays, playing above their weight, and then in a couple of weeks' time, it's not even close to that.
Even to be able to go to Auckland and get a win like this week, when everything this week has been negative. It's been Blazers leaving, this bloke's being shopped, this bloke's being shopped, and they just pull it together. You said at the start you don't want to be the negative fan that goes, where's this been? That's sort of how I felt at the end of the game. I was thinking, if I was a Parramatta fan, I'd be a little bit filthy.
I'd be licking my lips if I was Jason Riles going into this, because you're going, I'm picking up a team who are going to finish second or third last or thereabouts, but are clearly more than capable and probably should be a top 8 team. And I've got a good roster. As you said, Kempy, there's not a heap of work to do here. It's a few tweaks and we can be playing finals football. He could look like a genius in 12 months' time.
I wonder if it's the fact that Riles has been named as the coach that's been the turnaround. Basically, they go, we know who the coach is. We better start pulling it together now to impress him.
Yeah, maybe that is the case. Maybe he's contacted some of the boys. I think Bryce Cartwright came out and said basically like he hadn't been contacted yet. I guess, it's a talking point because the media have kind of brought it up. Mitchell Moses and will he stay or won't he stay? And me personally, if I've got no inside information, outside looking in, I just think this is a headline that is being generated because the Eels are down on their knees right now. Very easy club to kind of pick on. Mitchell Moses is signed to like 2027 or something like that. And I don't think his player option even kicks in until 2026 or 7. Can you check for us, please, Matty? I don't think Mitch is going anywhere.
I think he's got unfinished business at West, to be honest. Get him back over there.
What do you reckon, boys?
Sorry, his player option is for 2027.
So his players options for 2027. So he is contracted, no matter what, for another 2 years minimum.
Yeah, they're also probably fighting tooth and nail to keep Blaze Talangi if they think they're worried about Mitch Moses leaving as well. So
yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah,
boys?
I'm not buying it. As you said, he's locked up for a long time. They've just got a new coach. There's change there. I think it's rubbish.
And people go, there was that story about, them not getting help or whatever. You have to remember, Moses signed this contract under this current administration. So, it's not like he signed with a new administration or an administration that's been replaced by someone else, to my understanding at least. Now, granted, we can, if you want to talk about how the recruitment has been handled over the last few years, for sure, there's definitely big questions around that. But yeah, I think it's I think it's just an easy target right now. The Eels are struggling. Mitchell Moses, one of the biggest players in the game, very easy to start saying, oh, I think he'll want out and blah, blah, blah. I don't think he's going anywhere. And, he's built, I understand the argument of, he wants to win a premiership and he's getting a bit older here or there, but at the same time, it's not as simple as you know what? I'm signed here to 2026, at the very least 2027. I just want out now. So many things have to fall in place. For example, okay, if that's the case where, he wants to win a premiership, therefore he should be allowed to leave. Well, who's going to sign? Which of the top tier sides are just got $1 million ready to go for Mitchell Moses?
You watch him play for Parramatta. He bleeds blue and gold.
Yeah.
Every time he plays, he wears his heart in his sleeve. He doesn't look screaming of a bloke who wants out of that club.
Yeah. So as I said, Eels fans, look, I don't know any inside information, but I think it's all not true. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I just think it's right now the Eels are a super easy target, and we'll always be critical of as we said, it's super critical of the retention since the grand final of the Eels administration. But I do think in the Blaze Salungi situation, for example, I think that they just it's not their fault that he's leaving, in my opinion. I think that Penrith the Panthers are a juggernaut. They had that 6 jersey. And there was another article talking about how, Penrith Panthers, they've let go Sanders, they've let go Arthurs, they've let go Blaze. These are 3 spine players. Well, first of all, Arthurs is a unique situation that, that's a personal situation that no one could have foreseen really at the Eels coming through. Then you've got Sanders. He's never going to replace Mitchell Moses, so of course you're going to lose him. And then you've got Blaze, who it looks like may play 6. You're never going to place Dylan Brown. So, what do you expect the Eels to do? Drop Mitchell Moses, Dylan Brown? Keep Brad Arthurs just because his son's at the club? Then you'd be angry at the club for keeping him just because his son's at the club. So that's where I feel like the Eels are just a kind of easy target at the moment. You look at the Penrith Panthers. Even they couldn't keep Isaiah Katoa because Nathan Cleary was a 7 and he had to go. There's nothing the Eels could have done in that situation. And this is, as I said, this is coming from a panel that have been pretty critical of the retention. So I don't think the Eels deserve blame in those 3 players we just discussed for recruitment.
The Blaze situation's tough, isn't it? The Parramatta Eels, the Penrith Panthers, they really haven't flexed their muscles too much as far as going and signing guys. And then they decide to go after him, of all people, which Parramatta fans would just be beside themselves.
Yeah.
And you can't hold it against him. It's the right decision.
Yeah. What do you expect a young kid like that to do? If it is true that he's ending up Penrith, we'll all look like bloody idiot. Well, I'll look like a bloody idiot if he ends up somewhere else. If he does end up somewhere else, then we probably could sit here and go, maybe there is some blame on the on the Parry Eels. But if he ends up at Penrith, if we were all advising, let's say we all had a son that was 18 years old, what would we advise him to do? If Penrith came to him and said, you've got a 6 jersey next
He's probably you might pay him $650 or something now on potential, maybe even 7 or something. You might give a little bit more. He goes there and plays 1 year with Penrith. If he starts at 5'8" and plays next to Nathan Cleary, people could be wanting to line up and pay $900 or $1 million for him a year later because of what he could do at that club.
Yeah. So just tough timing for the Eels. I think that they've shown that they don't need a complete rebuild. There's a lot of positives from that game. Now, onto the Warriors. Really, really concerned. I'm really concerned for the Warriors because, just like the Broncos, it's been a disaster year. There's no real excuse for it. Plenty of other clubs have had injuries. And I just feel like sometimes when I watch the Warriors, they had that first year and everything was going right. So it's very hard to be too harsh on players. This second year, sometimes I wonder, are they harsh enough on each other standards-wise on the field? All these little things that happen, are they too nice to each other? It's all good. That area there, we'll work it out. Do they look like a team that is almost scared of not making the 8? I'm not sure. I feel like they might need to be a little bit harsh on each other to lift their standards higher. They've got the team to do it. They've proven they can. And I think that they look a little bit too comfortable with everything that happened last year, in my opinion.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, coming into this season, like we spoke about at the start of the year, talking about them potentially missing the 8, and the comments from Warriors fans and just from fans in general, it was just an outrageous thought to even consider this side could miss the 8, but they're just not playing with the same intent.
Well, I mean, those things we all pointed out earlier, That last try with Tenny Zalesniak, like, that's purely switching off, no concentration, complacent that you're going to score the try. Like, your season's on the line. Wrap the ball up and get down.
And it's not directly about him, Dallin, but like he's also had a number of those moments this year. Like you would think by this point, as you said, like how much does it mean to them? How much do they not want to make these errors?
Yeah, I'd use the word complacency there, Campion. I think that's what it is in a lot of ways, and I just think there are so many similarities between the seasons of the Brisbane Broncos and the Warriors, and they're just resting on good runs last year and the hype train a little bit. And to highlight a few stats, like they ran for 200 metres more in this game. They had more possession. They completed higher. I think this just highlights probably an inability to capitalise with ball in hand. And I think, we've sort of spoken in the past about with like Webster there trying to replicate, and they did it quite successfully last year, the way Penrith Panthers play their footy, high percentage, through the middle, all that sort of stuff. And it worked well for them last year, but this year it isn't working for them, and they're very predictable in attack. They're not throwing anything sort of left field out, and Penrith adapt their game. We spoke about it last week with their halves and how that's changed up.
They've almost come in almost a new style side each year. I think there might have been 2 years where they were pretty similar.
Yeah.
But they've changed up quite a lot since their first premiership.
Whereas the Warriors, as we said, I do believe they've sort of replicated off that Penrith system with Webster. I just don't think they've really changed anything. And last year, they were having such a terrific year. They were the underdogs, and they were so dominant through the middle. That right edge attack, it was the same shape all the time, and it just worked. They've just expected the same thing to happen this year and for things to come, and they're waiting for these big moments to come without being like, no, maybe we have to adapt our game because our attacking systems are being worked out by oppositions, and they've learned to shut them down. Like, it's very disappointing.
When I look at the Broncos and Warriors, they don't have the same hard edge as the top tier sides, like this kind of ruthless. And then I look to like your Sharks, your Cowboys, because then I ask the question, would you be, so the Warriors and the Broncos had this incredible year last year, and they're like, when it comes to their presence in rugby league to the community, they're like these two big juggernauts that get all these headlines and blah, blah, all that stuff. But in reality, when you actually look at the stats and how clubs have finished over the last 3 years, what would you rather? The Cowboys or the Sharks, or Warriors or Broncos? Well, I think the Cowboys, the Sharks, and now the Bulldogs have proven you'd probably rather them. They've been more consistent, and they haven't been perfect either. And I look at, Fitzgibbon, he made some really hard, tough calls early on. Then you look at the Cowboys. Toddy Payton basically called out one of the greatest players of all time in Jason Taumalolo, made some really tough decisions. And granted, like Sharks and Cowboys are still a bit away from a premiership, but at the very least, like they've built quite a solid foundation as to what they're doing. Whereas you look at the Broncos and the Warriors, and it's like, unfortunately, you can't really call it a foundation because they're so up and down. It's like, so you'd almost rather be in and then you look at the Bulldogs, and granted, it's just 1 year. We have to see how they go next year. But I go, because the Bulldogs made so much sacrifice last year and were willing to essentially like clean a whole squad out, play absolutely terribly, come close to winning a spoon, that pain early, is that going to pay more dividends long-term than almost a quick fix that you could argue has happened at the Warriors or the Broncos to get that short-term success? Again, I don't have the answers because we don't know how the Bulldogs are going to go next year. It's very complicated. But because they've gone so poorly, I think we have to ask the questions.
Has to be asked, for sure. Yeah, I just having a look at that play that Tim pointed out, the Assy try. When Gutho catches the short drop out on his 20-metre line, Mitch Barnett's on the 12-metre line. The player outside he's 3 metres out from his try line.
It's incredible.
Like, there's 10 metres difference there.
That's like pure complacency.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then I wonder, like, and I look at Webster, who was absolutely amazing last year, but does he need to be harsher on the playing roster? We look at Kevy. Does he need to be harsher? Both two coaches known as players' first coaches. I don't know. Just questions.
Don't know. I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what, coming into this week, I actually thought it was very harsh on Tomato Martin to be dropped from this side. I thought he was going great.
I actually didn't think he was going that great, to be honest. I think that his fifth tackle selections was really poor. Some of his kicking.
But with SJ in the side, that's not what you've got him there for, though.
I don't think he's a 6. I think Tomato Martin's now at 7.
So you're just in that line of argument that SJ and Tomato just can't pair together. It just doesn't work.
No, I don't think so. But look, that's just my opinion. Could be wrong.
On what we've seen this year, they really do struggle to combine together, and it does find it tough to work. They're the two best halves in the club. I mean, give or take sort of Luke Metcalf, who's been dearly missed this year, as we've seen. Because him and SJ were just like...
Well, Tomato Martin just doesn't run the ball much when he's played 6. He did initially, and I remember making the comment going, geez, Tomato Martin, he actually runs the ball quite a bit. I just think he's an out-and-out 7, and him and SJ are too similar.
I think Metcalf played New South Wales Cup on the weekend, so wouldn't be surprised if we see him back pretty soon.
What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, well, they punched well above their weight last year, didn't they? Kind of nobody picked them to finish top 4. Maybe they just got the best out of this squad last year, and they have got a couple of guys. They're not super old, but they'd been to a couple of clubs. They're probably a little bit towards the older end of the spectrum. SJ is probably the outlier. He's almost 34. Maybe it is time that they have a bit of a think about the future and do make some tough calls, because I think if they're going to look to try to keep this squad together, maybe it's a little bit old in some of those key positions. Fullback as well. Obviously, Chance is there around the 30.
Well, but the problem is they've left it too late.
Yeah.
Because they have to re-sign SJ now.
Yeah.
Boys? I think you have to, yeah.
Yeah,
no choice.
If you're going to make that tough call, it should have been made mid-year.
But this year, it's been tough for them as well. They have had a lot of injuries, just to give them a bit of a chop out. They've had to... Charge has been out for a big chunk of the year. They've tried a couple of different options at fullback.
They'd have RTI. The RTS was at fullback,
Tane Tuapiki went great.
Tuapiki was player of Queensland Cup for
but I just, in terms of, gelling together and getting, because they have struggled to score points a bit more this year than they did last year.
Yeah.
They've had a little bit of chopping and changing in there, so those are pretty important combinations.
I'm with you, but it's the same what I say about the Broncos. There are squads that have had nearly as many injuries that are not as good on paper as the Broncos and Warriors that have still managed to... look at the Raiders. The Raiders could make the 8. They've been without Fogarty for the friggin'... they've been playing with KO Weeks and Strong as their 6 and 7. No disrespect.
Yeah.
But they're 2 teenagers, one's a teenager, one's a rookie. And also there's an argument to be made that neither of them are halves. At the very least, KO Weeks isn't. Strong is, maybe a 6. I just think that the Broncos and the Warriors, you look at them on paper, some of the teams they were still running out, and this is a compliment, the roster they had, were definitely still good enough to be fighting for the 8, I reckon.
Yeah, well, they've definitely got, I think, good players on paper. I think when you compare them to a good, a Penrith, for example, obviously, again, they're a bit of an outlier, but they've got a very clear system. When a player comes in, they've got a particular kind of role. With the Warriors, you just mentioned 3 different fullbacks there that they've had play through the year. They're all very different styles of fullbacks. We said at the start of the season, should RTS just go back there full time? You're no, I think they're going to miss CNK's ball playing. I think, if they roll out the team that they've wanted to have injury free all year, maybe they win a few more of those tight ones that have let them down. I don't know. It's not an easy fix, but I think they have had a few mitigating factors that have impacted the year a little bit.
It's tough, though, because they've had so many... they had the game against Penrith at Magic Round. They lost a heap of players, and they just showed all grit in that game to win. They did the same thing against the Canterbury Bulldogs. They lost a few weeks ago, but they lost Chance, Dallin, Montoya. They lost all these guys in that game. They've shown that they can play tough footy. They just can't do it week to week.
Look at the Cowboys when they lost all their players. I totally agree. The Warriors have had injuries. I'm definitely not saying they haven't. And the fact that they've had all those injuries for me says, okay, if they don't make the top 4 this year, I go, look at all the injuries. They finish 6th, 7th. But that doesn't, they're currently right now, they're 13th. Them and the Broncos. For example, Rabbitohs also had heaps of injuries. And no, I don't think we all sit here and go, oh yeah, Rabbitohs,
the Titans lost Tino from the start of the season. AJ Brimson plays 1 week, then misses 3, plays 1 week, then misses 3. They have had injuries all over the place, and they're getting better as the season goes on.
And I think didn't Rabbitohs have to get some exemption or something at one point?
Yeah, we did. We had to get players out of the top 30 because we could only fill, I think it was 18 players out of the 21.
Well, Burns, didn't he have to get traded?
Fletcher Myers made his debut on the weekend. He came down from Newcastle 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. So, I fully agree that Broncos and Warriors have had injury concerns. But that's where I go, well, they're probably going to finish 6th or 7th or 8th, not 14th or whatever.
By the way, Metcalf did come back last week and he played 40 minutes and they took him off. He wasn't injured or anything. They just gave him 40 minutes.
Okay. That's smart. That's smart from the
Right.
Warriors. In regards to the performance, boys, like anyone else, any positives stand out to you?
Yeah, I thought, another week, another compliment for Mitch Barnett.
Yeah.
I thought he was great again. He was actually close to getting on my bench and it's team of the week. But outside of that, it was pretty grim for me.
Timmy?
Not really, mate. There were so many poor one-on-one defensive misses where systems were fine, they had numbers and all that, and like the two young centres, big, very promising futures, but both with some just really poor defensive plays in there, and it's, like SJ did it very rarely, but he swept and played on the left side of the field at one point and had a major role in the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck try. I talk about them being this system that's quite monotonous at times and predictable. The last 5 minutes, granted they're a player down, the Eels, but he started playing a bit of footy, a bit more off-cuff sort of stuff that we know SJ does so well, and they came alive and he looked brilliant. So SJ had his moments.
Well, that's the I guess the frustrating thing with the Warriors. In the last 10 minutes when the game was almost over, the intensity went from like 6 to like 9. Like it was totally different. With the centers, there was one where I think it's Lautia made a tackle, and he just wasn't desperate enough to get back to his line.
The Lussick try, I think.
Yeah,
Yes, Lussick try.
and it's just like those situations. Like you could almost forgive it if it was in the middle of the field and you've just made a tackle. But and look, he's a rookie. He'll learn this. He'll learn it. But on your goal line, you've got to be so desperate, like immediately up, sprinting back, and then off the line, close the hole.
And as I said, it was a slow play of the ball. There was no excuse there.
I mean, really the only excuse is that he's a rookie.
He's a rookie, yeah.
Which is understandable. He'll learn from that. But it is, I guess, yeah. Another one was like second half. The first chance the Warriors get, they get down there, and then Ale just drops the ball cold. Just, really, really poor. A silly challenge early in the game that I was like, what's going on there? With the Warriors, really, really disappointing. And they're pretty much in a similar-ish boat to the Broncos where, you know what, they're not in a similar boat because they got a rookie coach. So you can kind of, the good thing for the Warriors is it's his second year. So you can forgive him learning on the job as well as a head coach. The Broncos are actually in a much worse position because he's not in his second year. And it's, and I'd argue on paper the Broncos probably have a better roster than the Warriors.
I feel like you could make a few excuses for the Warriors. It's hard to make many for the Broncos at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. I'd probably lean more into like the injuries and second year as a head rookie coach, and SJ's been out for all that time, plus all that other stuff that's like, plus all the other people that have been out for. I'd be more willing to accept it from the Warriors to the Broncos. The Broncos is just genuinely disaster.
Be really interesting to see the influence that James Fisher-Harris has when he arrives.
True. Because like I do feel like all these little things that we're seeing, like the choosing the easy option, he's not going to allow that.
And that's it. Like you look at the Cowboys and Sharks had these incredible runs a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and then weren't able to back it up last season or like the one after it and play finals football. The Warriors, the hype was just so real last year. It was a big emotional roller coaster for that squad. Look, they haven't backed it up this year, but we've seen Cowboys, Sharks, they're back in finals contention, top 4 contention. The Warriors can do it as well, but disappointing season.
Yeah. Okay, now on to Roosters defeat the Dolphins 40-34. Look, the Dolphins on the back foot. They lost Nikodima to illness. Forward Tavita Pangai Jr. re-aggravated a calf issue. But as the side only travelled with 19-man squad, was retained as their replacement despite not being able to play. So winger Asako, he also didn't finish the game. So they were up against it. And Tavita Pangai Jr. ended up being their 18th man.
Yeah.
But he was never going to get on the field.
Yeah.
So they were up against it heading into the Roosters side. So, like, again, this is similar-ish to the Tigers-Cowboys one. I actually get more out of this from the Dolphins than I do the Roosters. We spoke about it last week with the Roosters. It's just their inability to just foot on the throat, end it. They just give people too many opportunities to get back into the game. And the Dolphins, although they got 40 put on them, do what the Dolphins do, which is show a lot of fight. Boys, what do you think of this one?
Honestly, before this game, watching both teams warm up, and when you watch the Roosters, and mate, it's just Origin star after Origin star.
Crazy.
It is an insane roster, and when you just watch a man for man warming up, I I know they conceded 40, but I cannot believe the Dolphins got near them in this game. I really can't.
Yeah. It's almost like similar-ish to the Cowboys, but to a bigger degree. Like, it's almost like they're waiting for finals footy. Like, they're just like, we know that we can turn it on when we need to. We've done it already through this year. There was that period where they were just blowing every team off the park. It's almost as if they're going, when finals footy gets there, we'll be ready to go. But that's, like, these little things. For example, the 2 first times that the Dolphins got down to the Roosters' end and attacked their line, they scored tries.
Yep.
Like, you can't do that as a premiership winning side.
Roo, you've been wined and dined a little bit by the Dolphins of late on different occasions. And as a man who's on the lookout for a team, you're neutral when it comes to rugby league sides. I reckon they're coaching up to you a little bit, and I reckon you're sort of falling in their way. If the only thing working against them is that they're Queenslanders, but they're looking after you.
That's definitely working against them. Mate, they're such a good club, though.
Yeah.
Just the way that...
Great story.
For them to be where they are now after... They didn't exist 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's for without repeating myself, but just for them to even compete in that game was ridiculous. Like, Max Plath in that game, he scored the first try for them. He set up another. He played 80 minutes at 9. He wasn't meant to do that. He'd had the flu all week. They weren't sure if he was going to play. And he just went, I'll play 80 minutes at hooker. He's not even a hooker.
Yeah.
He was a halfback 2 years ago who's turned himself into a lock. Then he comes out and destroys the Roosters playing hooker.
Yeah. The only thing that killed the Dolphins is ill discipline. Like, the amount of times coming out of their own end, they'd hold on too long, or it'd just be a drop ball. Like, unfortunately, I thought Kerr had probably his worst game for the club since arriving. Like, some key errors, just lapse of concentration.
Yeah, there was a moment there, boys. The Dolphins had all the momentum and the rest. 7 minutes to go. Joey Manu went to the bin. It was that fourth tackle. It was a rapid play of the ball. The Roosters somehow held them out defensively. And Asako had his ankle kicked out, so he couldn't get to dummy half, and the Roosters dived on it. I think if they don't dive on him there, I think they were down 8 at the time. I think the Dolphins, I don't say going to win it. I reckon they have every chance of going to win it if that goes to a dummy half, because they were killing him.
Yeah. The momentum was their way on in that play massively.
Which is incredible, like the Dolphins to be able to swing it back that way. But just some key moments. The Manu Hammer one, if he hit him in the head, I can understand it's 10 in the bin. I've watched as much vision as I can. I'm yet to see a clear shot that he actually hit him in the head. Boys?
Yeah, I probably can't comment because I was out there. I didn't get to see it up close. So I'm probably not the best person to ask, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this protection of ball players time and time again. And as you said, Kempy, they have way more angles than we do to have a look at. So if they've seen an angle that he did clip him in the head and it was late, then it probably is a sin bin. I'm a bit like you. I'm like, did he not? But they're protecting ball players when they're passing the ball and after it, so I can see what happened.
Yeah. I think we're all on agreement. Like, if he did touch his head, then fair enough. But I have to admit, and this is me being honest, it looked pretty soft to me. It looked pretty soft. Again, they've probably got more camera angles, but to me, didn't look like much at all.
I'd love for it not to be a sin bin. I just the ones we see these days, I'm like, it didn't come as any surprise.
There was a few like that this weekend. Like, there was the one on Kalen Ponga as well, Isaac Tungo, that was a penalty. It wasn't a sin bin, but like, that was a penalty just off the optics because it was a big hit.
Yeah.
Definitely on the lower scale. Like, I'm glad it was that one. Definitely, I think you can delineate between that one being a bin and the Olam one being a send off.
Yeah.
It was like, if it got him, it only just kind of grazed him, and it might have been a bit of chin, but I don't think it was direct.
Yeah, it was like, there was not much in it. There was not much in it at all. I do think, though, Teddy should have been sin bin. Professional foul.
Yep.
Holy.
That was ridiculous.
What? Where's the consistency? Like, what? I don't understand what the ref's thinking there.
I'm trying to remember it, but like, they literally blew a penalty or a 6 again or something, didn't they? And like, had time to think about it.
And so he didn't make it to marker because it'd been a
Oh,
line break essentially. Yeah. And then he tackled the next bloke, and they just gave a 6 again. And the only reason why it wasn't a big controversy is because they scored on the
It was the clearest professional foul you'll ever see.
So clear, and just nothing. Like.
Dolphins had so much go against them in this 24-hour period.
Like, so Teddy goes 10 in the bin there. Like, sometimes you'd almost rather the 10 in the bin than the try, because you could score 2. You just don't know. And then, like, granted, it's a hard call. It's not an easy call. Some people would want to try. Some people would rather 10 in the bin. But Mate, he should have been 10 in the bin for sure, in my opinion. Crazy call. Okay, so we'll stay on the Dolphins. Once again, like, Avrilo's defence, his reads, I just don't understand. They must... And look, in his defence, he actually had O'Sullivan inside him this time. So maybe there's that lack of communication, but they just cannot seem to get it right on that edge.
Shooting out for that Suoliti try, just in no man's land, just going, mate, what are you doing? And it's such a shame because he's been awesome in attack.
So good in
his
attack.
defence has just gone nowhere.
I don't understand. He must be in his own head where, like, he's thinking about it too much now, so he's not confident in his decision-making, so he doesn't want to hesitate, so he makes the decision before it happens. I'm not sure, but if they want to make the 8, they somehow, some way got to sort that out.
It's tough on Jake Averillo too. Like, as we've spoken about it before, mate. Like defending at centre is such a specialised position because he's been screwed around so much at Canterbury. Like, really hasn't played there that much because he's been moved around so much. Now he's in a new system. But the problem is though, mate, that they don't really have anyone else up there. Like they've got injuries to outside backs. It's pretty much testing you up there.
I mean, I know he also has his deficiencies in defence.
Yeah, I think I'd stick with Jake Averillo at the moment, but it's tough.
Yeah, so in regards to performance, just their real discipline. The amount of silly penalties they gave away, like piggybacking out of their own end, it really hurt them. Because now they find themselves in a really tough spot because they've got teams around them that the Dragons, it's hard to ever say the Dragons are in form because they have one really bad week and then one incredible week. But they've got a team like the Dragons who they just look, they're starting to really believe in what is going on down there and also almost like embracing the fact that they are so erratic, that they're so up and down because, as I said, one week they can play so poorly where you're going, surely their confidence is completely shot. And then the next week they come out and they look like they can beat literally anyone. Like they are so confident, so dominant, so aggressive, so disrespectful to any team, like when they're up. And so now the Dolphins find themselves on 24 points with teams like the Raiders, the Titans, and the Knights. And the Knights have a really good run home, as we said. The Titans last week or even the week before, I was questioning, are we being dazzled by Desi Hasler and they're actually having a really poor year? I think their performance on the weekend puts that to bed. I think Desi Hasler, we are seeing a club turn a corner. We really are. I love what's happening at the Titans. So you got the Titans who are on the up. You got the Raiders who just took the Bulldogs to essentially the death and have Fogarty back look like a whole new team. You got the Knights with an easy draw run home. Then you got the Sea Eagles who are also building confidence. Like the Dolphins could have gone from a side where such close games, if they just had found a way to win, they would cement themselves in the 8 to all of a sudden going to, let's say they drop down to 10th, even though it's still a successful year as a club for the second year, it's so far away from all the hard work they put in at the start of the year to get them into a good spot to make the 8.
I will say this too for the Dolphins, just a bit of a tough gig. Like they played Sunday afternoon last week. So their recovery Monday, they would have had a training session Tuesday. Wednesday would have been a travel day, and then they're playing Perth on the Friday night. It's a pretty short turnaround. Go all the way to Perth. Like it's a 5-hour flight to get over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, their defence at the start of the year was solid enough. They're not like a traditionally or a classic Wayne Bennett coach side with this defensive backbone, are they? Like they've been not majorly worse than a lot of others, but barring the round 11 clash with the Tigers, they've conceded 4+ tries in every game. You're just like, their attack's been great, but you're asking a lot to come out with the 2 points if you're conceding that many each week.
Yeah. I really do believe it's these silly penalties and errors in key moments that just hurt them. Granted, that's another club we have to speak about. Herbie Farnworth missed a stint. Flegler's been gone essentially the whole season. Gilbert gone the whole season.
JMK gone now.
Jeremy Marshall-King gone, and he's been gone for a couple of weeks now.
Huge out.
So they're missing so many key players. So when you look at it from that perspective, you're like, it's incredible they're actually fighting for the 8. I really hope they make the 8 though. Like they're genuinely a side I think would be good for rugby league if they did make the 8. Who played well for them though, boys?
Maxi Plavo, as I said, he was a standout for me. Watching Hamiso live, and I know he didn't have his biggest game. I think it's the first time I've seen him live. he just moves like no one I've seen before.
Incredible, eh?
He is an absolute freak.
He announced himself on that same ground in the Auckland Nines a couple of years ago. I think he got a hat trick for the Cowboys, a couple of chip and chases and stuff. So good full circle moment for him to be back there. He was playing. He was humming.
I've got to say, I thought Herbie Farnworth was outstanding.
Yep.
Geez, like the amount of times they need someone to take a tough carry, to get in there and just straighten everything up. Like it's countless. It is countless the amount of sets that he has saved for that club.
Yeah, well, he ran 140 metres. Half those metres were post-contact. So he gets in there, does the grunt work. Such a good signing for their club. He was immense on the weekend too.
4 tackle breaks. So, 140 metres, 62 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 7 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors, and a try assist. He just... The level at which he's played at now for at least, 2.5, 3 years... Like, you're guaranteed a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 from Herbie Farnworth every single week.
Yep.
Every week.
Yeah.
I agree with you, mate. Max Psychoplath, I thought he was great as well. And he's one of those guys that I really, really hope that they can get to a point where they have other players that can fill in for injuries so that he gets to keep a spot at 13 week in, week out for the rest of his career.
Well, it's going to be the big question next year with Tom Gilbert returning, whether they just shift him into the front row. I know I would personally. He's been the lock last few years. I think Plath has to be the guy.
Plath has to be 13 for me. He suits the modern era perfectly at 13.
Yeah, Tommy Gilbert's game won't change going from lock to middle. He'll still play big minutes, have a big role. Sweet.
And then you've got Kafusi, who's also, in the middle if you have to. So if you wanted to, you could move Gilbert out to an edge because he played there for Origin. I think Plath, I just hope that the fact that he's such a good utility, he doesn't fill in spots all the time. He's not the guy that's always getting moved around. I hope they go, you know what, he's too important. And the 13 is too important of a role. Let's get as many reps as possible with Plathy at 13.
So what if they get, those two boys back? You got Finay Fuiaki arriving too. It's going to be a handy little pack next year.
Yeah,
They're all on the field. It's going to be a great pack.
I mean, the thing that sucks for them is we've been saying that. We said that this year, and they lost their friggin' 2 main guys. Unbelievable. Okay, now on to the Roosters. For me, this was the Sam Walker show. His kicking game, it is just like... Honestly, it just reminds me a lot of Alfie Langer, the old clips I used to see of Alfie Langer, where he is finding spots on the field that even if the fullback is doing everything right, he's not going to be able to get there. And the way he uses, the way he kind of just, his body kind of is shaped, when he kicks it, it's so deceptive as to where the ball's going to land. He'll kick off the inside of the boot, the outside of his boot. He'll take it to the line. He'll take it. He'll be deep. There's so many different ways that he can just put the defense in multiple different mindsets. Is he going for a repeat set? Is this a kick where it looks like a repeat set, but it's actually going for a genuine try? His short kicking game is some of the best we've seen in a very, very long time.
And when he jinks it, the way that he just creates new lanes for himself every single time.
Yes. The footwork creates space in the defensive line that isn't usually there.
And he's the way that he kicks when he's close to the line, it's that backyard footy. It's like the dead ball line's the garage door, and he just never goes near it.
Yeah.
Just always manages to pull it up in the exact right moment. As you said, mate, when he kicks a football, he is hitting certain parts of the ball for a certain reason every single time.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. And just the time, the amount of times, if anyone else tried to do what he does, it would hit defenders' legs. They'd get tackled. It would go dead. It would be too shallow. He nails it every time. Every time.
Yeah. Walson Carlos, a mate of mine who does a weekly rap podcast for SC Playbook, and he was speaking about last night. Sammy Walker, whilst was a really good footballer himself, he's sort of a number 9, come through junior grades behind Cam Smith up in Queensland, and he made the point of where he almost crouches down when he's doing those grubbers in behind the line, and he's dropping the ball onto his foot from such a small margin away. He's not dropping it from the way, and he was saying he'd been taught by AFL coaches and stuff in the past, and you see the way AFL players kick it. Yeah. They don't drop and leave a lot of room for it to go. You're just a lot more accurate kicker, and you can find those points on the ball that you're talking about because the point between dropping it and hitting your boot is so close together, which I found very fascinating because when you talk about his ability to manoeuvre a ball, I'm kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, when I, listening to the kickers when I was playing, they would often talk about the drop is actually the biggest part of the kick because it's the placement of where you want the ball to land on your foot. And then if you've got more space between the drop and the foot, you've got more time for the ball to move and obviously ruin where you want to kick the ball and the spot on the ball. But yeah, it's such a good insight from that guy because it's true. Like he'll sometimes like drop it and his knee will be like up half a metre off the ground and he'll almost drop it onto the inside of his boot.
It almost looks uncoordinated the way that he does it. Like it's so unorthodox.
Yeah.
And like that I think it was the second try he scored where he did a full 180 on that play, came out the back and then just went, I'll just chip over Hamiso.
Yeah.
From 3 metres out. Like
That was...
just crazy.
He's got a real knack. He's not afraid to just go for a kick sometimes where other people don't. Last week in their game, he kicked one over to Tupou on the wing who threw it back into Jennings where probably could have gone through the hands as well. But he's got such confidence in his kicking game at the moment that, he's so dangerous with it. And that second chip and chase try that you touch on, like, that was just out of absolutely nothing. It was a scrappy ball. Like Brandon Smith threw it out the back with one hand, did the 180 just in a flash. Thanks for coming. Two chip and chase tries in 9 minutes from Sam Walker.
And it's shit like that when we get to finals and they're playing, your Penriths, your Canterbury Bulldogs. Like, you beat the best defensive team in the world. You can't really defend that stuff.
No, you can't. You genuinely can't.
You can't. Like, it's...
The one, it's nipped away at me, and I see it all the time, Wes, and I've brought it up on the show, but not for a while, so I'll bring it up again. And it might be an old school train of thought. It very well may be, but just this fullbacks defending in the line argument. I've said it time and time again, but the amount of easy tries that are just kicking behind the line, like the Sammy Walker on his first one there, Hammer was on, I think he was on the short side, and Sammy Walker goes, okay, thank you, chipped over the top, went through, like, had a bit of ground to cover as well, and he still got there first. And it's like, I understand it's an extra defender in the line, it's important, but half the time they're little fullbacks who they just get targeted by the defence anyway and get run over the top of, or dummy halves will run straight through them. You look at Drinky at the Cowboys, it happens to a lot. About, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, the fullback defending the line came into the play, and it used to not be like that. They'd cover just in behind the ruck, so they were there to cover any kicks in behind the line. They'd then essentially, if the ball spread, they'd get across the field and they become the wing defender. Kemper, you would have known from your days playing. And it changed, and I'm just not convinced by it.
Well, I'm surprised at how often now you'll see...
Yeah, all the time.
It's like tackle 3.
Yeah.
And they're in the line or... I'm with you, mate. I've noticed recently how much, especially watching the Broncos, like Reece Walsh gets caught out on a side, and it's not his fault because he's being told to mark it that A defender. But I'm starting to get to the point where, look, it gets you an extra defender, but like if they're going to beat you on the outside, let them beat you on the outside.
At what cost? And that's rugby league. Like forever and a day, coaches have always said they do not go through our front gate.
Yeah.
If they are going to score, it will be the winger and it will be in the corner. We can cop that, but they do not go through us. Mate, they go through them all the time with the extra man in the line.
And also, like the thing that's, I guess, surprising with me is how often the fullback will get in that A defender and he'll go all the way up with the defence and stay at A and like actually defend, when in reality they used to make it so that you'd go up like 1 metre and then you'd immediately be on your bike. And the more I watch it, the more I go, that almost screws up the defensive line spacing anyway, because the B is too wide then. And so, I'm with you, mate. I'm sure they've got stats on it, and it's proven that it works.
And like they all do it, but I'm just sitting here going like, is every coach, and this where I'm like, okay, you've got 17-year-old coaches versus me. I wonder who's right, I wonder who's wrong. But the more I just see it all the time, and I go, are they all just in this train of thought that you have to do it? Do you?
And also, what I find I would want to do at the back, and again, you're right, mate, like we're versus 17 NRL coaches. They're probably totally right. But like for what you lose at A defender, you can make it up by making what Gutho does really well, is he becomes the winger.
Yeah.
And so if you're already behind the ruck and you're watching and, okay, they got the ball and you get on your bike, if you get on your bike properly, you will be the wing defender. So you're making up that extra defender. Instead of it being at A, you're making it up on the wing.
There's coverage there. And like on top of that, not only are they there for the kick coverage and they grub in behind the line, there are just so many easy tries. They cover the vast majority of those ones that are scored, but because they're following the ball, they're also the last man defender when someone does sort of have a bit of a flimsy tackle and they're wrestling and they see him dive over the line. They're there to cover that as well. Like, they're still a defender.
Yeah. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure. I mean, there must be some kind of stat where when you put it in the line, they score X amount of times. But it is something that I think is going to get exploited quite a bit.
I'd love to hear a coach talk about it.
Yeah. Because we've seen quite a few tries this year of them just going, oh, there's a fullback right there. Front rower runs straight at him.
All the time.
Yeah. In regards to other performances, I thought I was quite surprised at the forward pack getting, quite dominated with Butcher and May, the only forwards to run over 100 metres. May running 126 metres and Nat Butcher running 102. Was quite surprised at that. And as I said, I do think this Roosters side does seem like it's just waiting for finals footy.
Even May, like 126 run minutes. Like he played 64 minutes. Normally, when he plays 64 minutes, you're looking at 200.
Yeah.
Like he's like I just think the Dolphins, their pack really aimed up. Like even Spencer Lenier, like he started, he played 47 minutes. He only had 57 run meters.
Did Lindsay Collins have a head knock?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
so he lasted
Bradley.
16 minutes, and it wasn't Terrell May's certainly not his best game of the year, but. How much of a reassurance is that to Trent Robinson, who runs with a 4-forward bench more often than not to go? If anyone goes down or we lose multiple people, we'll just play Terrell for 65 straight.
He is so important to that team. That Lindsay Collins Radley head knock looks so bad. I was shocked that it was Collins.
Yeah,
I thought Radley was gone. That looked bad. So hopefully they're all good.
Yeah, the other one on that bench rotation. When Stili Tupanua first got moved to centre, when they had, I think, Suoliti suspended and Manu might have been injured, whatever it was, I went, I'm sure you can find an actual outside back to play in the outside backs, no matter what the injury toll is. The fact that he does run with his 4-forward bench rotation, Stili Tupanua spending time at centre, firstly, it's a godsend for Robbo again that he can run that bench and cover the outside backs, but Tupanua, any time he's had to deputise at centre, he's done a really good job for him.
Tell you what, he could be such a good signing for Canterbury next year. When you look at what they've got out of their current pack, a guy like him arriving,
Just got to stay injury free.
Yeah, because you talk to guys at the Roosters, they reckon he's an absolute freak during the week that we haven't seen anywhere near his best.
Yeah, if he can stay injury free, he will be in that, and especially in that kind of mobile Bulldogs pack with the unique way they play.
Perfect for him, isn't he?
Perfect. Look, Roosters got the win. At the end of the day, we're talking about a Roosters who last year they had to win every game just to make the 8. Now they're almost, entrenched in the top 4. So, that's pretty bloody good. It's pretty, if I'm a Roosters fan, I'm sitting here going, we are primed, ready for finals footy. We don't have to stress about making the 8 and not getting an extra crack at it during finals footy. We're basically, so right now, the Roosters sitting... Just get the ladder up. I think they've got a game in hand.
Well, bye this weekend.
So they bye this week. So they go 32 points, which puts them out and out in 3rd place. And their run home. Have you got their run home, boys?
I got it here. They got the Eels, Titans, Raiders, Souths. Pretty good run home.
So really good run home. You'd be genuinely shocked if they don't make top 4. You got to give Robbo his flowers. He's taken a team that notoriously started terribly. Each year they're fighting till the death to make the 8, to completely changing to a point where they are locked into a top 4 spot pretty much.
Yep.
You can't really ask much more. Granted, I get he's got a great roster, but footy, as we've seen this year, is far more about on paper. I think Robbo's done a really good job this year with the boys.
Yep. I'd agree.
Huge job.
Yep.
See if you can finish it off.
Ooh. Okay, some beer shout-outs. We are now available in Mr. Liquor and Liquor Stack stores. If you're in store and don't see bloke on the shelf, let them know and they'll order it in for you. Harrigan's at Cameron Park with their footy in a fade on during the Thursday night game. $30 will get you a schooner, a bloke, and a haircut. Alrighty, now it's time for our great mate Dwayne Bennett. Hey mate, what's the fan question this week?
Mate, the fan question comes from Sarah. She's a Dragon supporter, and she wants to know if you think the top 8 at the moment will remain in the top 8, or will someone outside the top 8 make the finals?
Ooh, okay.
Who will it be?
Who, if anyone, who could sneak into the 8 that's currently outside the 8? Well, I'll tell you what, the Dolphins, Raiders and Titans, all 3 of them genuinely could sneak into the 8, especially the Raiders. The Raiders are such a team where, I know they lost on the weekend, but A, it was a very close game, and B, every time you count them out, they do something special. But the current 8, look, I would have to say out of the Dolphins, Raiders, Titans, the Dolphins are probably the most likely to to kind of sneak in there. But I tell you what, the current 8 right now, I reckon it's probably where it's going to end up, especially with the way the Dragons played on the weekend.
Yeah, I'd probably lean towards saying the same, mate. I'll just have a look through all their draws. I think actually the Knights probably have the best draw out of all those teams, but I don't know if I can see them getting in with the form they're playing at the moment. So I think I'd probably stick with the Dragons in 8th, which what an incredible season.
Incredible season.
Yeah, look, it's wide open, that 8th spot, isn't it? But I'm with Rue. I think the Knights, going purely off the draw, they had the softest run home of all those clubs ranked 8 to sort of 12 by a fair margin. So I saw enough from the Knights yesterday against Penrith to think that maybe they can make a run and finish in style, Ponga a few more games under his belt. I reckon the Knights are the Smokies.
Mate, how do you become a Finlander?
Mate, you just sign up to become a Finlander at finland.com.au. Download your digital passport onto your smartphone. Don't forget, new Finlanders out there get the iconic and the magnificent Budget Direct Fin sent to their home address. It's that easy, Denon. Come on down.
Mate, easy
Become
as.
a Finlander.
Easy as. So everyone head to finland.com.au and sign up to be an official Finlander to get your digital Finlander passport. And like me, become an official Finlander. And look, you don't have to be your favourite team, but let the Dolphins be your second favourite team. Second year in the competition, fighting for an 8th spot. Get around them. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. Alrighty, Titans defeat the Broncos 46-18. And the Broncos were up, I think, 18-10 at one stage. What an incredible performance by the Titans. And, you know, we've been umming and ahhing, or at least me, I won't speak for everyone else, but I've been umming and ahhing with the Titans going, look, we've seen moments where it feels like they've turned a corner, it feels like they've gotten certain things sorted out. And I just think that I've seen enough over the last 6 weeks with the Titans to suggest that have they turned a corner like the Bulldogs? And I'm almost envisioning maybe a premiership in the next 4 or 5 years. Maybe not, but I tell you what, I do think that they're finally starting to get what Desi wants, and also not even just understanding what he wants, but fully buying into what Desi Hasler wants. Because some of the victories they've had and the way they've played over the last 4 or 5 weeks have been outstanding, and I think they've really sorted out a few key positions. Their fullback, you know, it's almost sorted. Campbell looks like he can be a long-term 6. Granted, we still have to see a whole season, but from what the information we have right now, it looks like their key positions are sorted. When Bremo does come back, he's probably going to have to come back in centre or something like that, which is crazy to suggest because, you know, it was only 10 weeks ago, not even that, maybe even 6 or 7, where we all would have said, nah, Bremo is the out-and-out fullback. Incredible win from the Titans. So much to build on from here. Much deserved. They had that incredibly poor start to the season. They hadn't won a game in they went 0-6. And just to show the grit that they have shown over the last 10 weeks to put themselves in a position to potentially make finals footy is an incredible feat for a club that has tried so hard to have success, have made some really tough calls, and who knows, maybe those tough calls may pay off this year.
They started the season 0-6, I believe it was. Since then, they're 8-5. It's incredible when you consider the guys they're missing and whatnot. And as you said, mate, AJ Brimson, if he comes back, if he was to come back this week, you'd have to probably play him at centre. Who are you going to drop?
Yeah,
Carlton Pereira, Kelly, Sammy, Jojo Fafita.
Yeah.
Like a great position to be in. It's fantastic. They are. Honestly, mate, I thought after the first few weeks, I thought there wasn't a hope they'd be able to turn this around.
I thought it was a disaster. I was, after those first 6 weeks, I was almost going, you know what, put a line through this season and let's just hope that Desi has I mean, I remember even considering, do they need a roster clean out? Like, does Desi need to do what Serraldo did and basically just replace his whole top squad? And yet here we are with a team that genuinely could make the 8. Not just like, oh, maybe. And yes, granted, it's still going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be tough. But that's how far the Titans have come.
Yeah, I was about to say 100% they've turned a corner. I'll say 99% they have, because we've seen glimpses year after year. I don't think there's been a season with the Titans where you've gone, like, they don't have a wooden spoon, do they?
I think they've got a wooden spoon.
They've got a wooden spoon, okay. But they've always had moments in seasons, but this one is longer than most. And we touched on it earlier in the show, but the blokes they lost early in the season, in like number one being Tino, but then Brimson has missed a lot of games, Foran's missed games, Jaden Campbell's missed games. They have had genuine injury excuses. it's such a shame they didn't jag one of those first 6 games because I look at them now and I go, mathematically they can still play finals and they're playing good enough footy to go on a run and make finals, but it's a pretty tough run home, so I think they'll probably have to win all of them. If they just had one more early in the season, they would be right in the hunt. And look, never say never, because even with a few of the tougher matchups to come, if they're playing for their season and they're in red-hot form, why not?
8 weeks ago, they were last.
Wow.
It's incredible. It's an incredible turnaround. And then, you know, obviously being a Broncos fan, you know, it stings that they won and all that stuff. But I tell you what, when they were showing footage of up in the box with the administration and the owners and all that, you know, it was good to see. I am from the Gold Coast, and you know, any professional outfit on the Gold Coast has struggled to win premierships, all that kind of stuff. And granted, they're so far away from it, but they've made such a 180 in such a short time. In this season alone, it's incredible.
They've probably got to win 4, you'd say, at least of their last 5 to get in. So they're going to be the favourites against the Sharks this weekend on Friday. Then they've got, this is the big one, the Dragons game. That's probably the 4-point game. If they lose that, you'd say they're probably done because they're probably both playing for that 8th spot. Then you've got the Roosters, tough game, Knights, winnable, and then you finish with the Panthers. So probably going to have to win one of those big games.
Panthers may rest. Panthers may rest. Now,
That'd be huge.
right now, to make the 8, Titans are paying $15. Bearing in mind the Panthers may rest.
Yep.
And there's a few other winnable games there. So worth a look.
Mate, it's 11th versus 4th this weekend. 11th is the favourite against the Sharkies.
That's how good they've been. That's how good the
Well,
Titans have been.
They're probably also tying in, and we'll get something soon, obviously, but Braden Trindle, probably out as well. So just looking at the halves, but still, it's
Wild.
As you said, they can go on a run. And actually, you mentioned Penrith round 27. Notoriously, they've rested players that week. You never know.
You never know. In regards to performances, I mean, you name it. Everyone just turned up. And what I like the most about this Titans performance is they were down. And it looks like, okay, Broncos, superstars are standing up. Reece Walsh had a huge first half. Here we go. And the Titans just went, no, not intimidated one little bit. And, you know, if anything, I do feel like it's actually quite surprising in how quickly this Broncos team has lost its aura. I do feel like there was a period last year where they would almost come onto the field and you could see the other teams going, we're just not going to, these guys are too big, too fast, too strong. Now I think teams are coming on this field going, not only are you not too big, too fast, too strong, we're just better than you as a footy side. We know that we'll outlast you, and that's exactly what the Titans did. In regards to performances, I mean, we have to speak about Jojo Fafita. Performance of a lifetime. I've always been a fan of Jojo Fafita and always been surprised at the players that got selected over him. Even when Khan Pereira initially got selected over Jojo Fafita, I was always like, you know, because Jojo Fafita offers a lot more in coming out of his own end with his, his ability to take hit-ups out of his own end. And funnily enough, in their speed testing, he actually is the fastest at the club, apparently. But isn't it such a good example of there's fast on, track or being measured or whatever, and then there's footy fast. And I'd argue Khan Pereira's first 10 metres is literally top 3 first 10 metres we've ever seen. Like, his first 10 metres is absolutely electric. And he, not only is he obviously fast off the field, but he's footy fast as well.
Yeah, mate, I always remember Jojo Fafita made his debut in round 18 of 2022. He was in the Prime Minister's 13 at the end of that season after only a handful of games. And I remember seeing that pick. I know it's only the Prime Minister's 13, but I remember seeing that pick going, Christ, that is out of the blue. He looks like he's got some talent, but that selection was really out of the blue for me. And ever since then, it seems to be every time he gets an opportunity, he does well.
It's just sometimes defensively you can just completely switch off. But I've always been a big fan of him in regards to his talent. And 3 try assists, 13 runs, 138 metres, 28 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks, an offload, 4 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors. He was electric, absolutely electric. Who stood out for you, Timmy?
Yeah, and what it's done as well is because they have had injuries at different stages this year, it's given blokes opportunities like Jojo. It's just going to do wonders for their depth moving forward. When they do get players back next year, and as I said, not putting a line through this season just yet, but their depth across the board, absolutely fantastic. Keanu Kinney, he gets better every week as well. When he first came up sort of through the grades, his first, did debut last year or whenever it was, and you're going, all right, there's all this hype around him. when he came in, he just looked to me like one of those somewhat one-dimensional fullbacks who's got a really good running game, bit of speed. Do they offer any ball playing? How much ability is there outside of just speed and that sort of stuff? Mate, he's just class all round. He's exploded the last couple of months, and
he looks like a guy that was built to be gun in Queensland Cup, but just didn't have the extra facets to his game.
Class
first grade,
almost.
yeah. But geez, he's proved that
Hasn't
wrong.
he?
Holy. I think another facet, and granted, it's very early in his career, but it's his availability. Like he's durable. Like again, early in his career, but that may be one benefit that he has over Campbell, over Brimson, is he might be quite durable. And if you are durable, it's one of the biggest parts of being a professional rugby league player is availability.
Well, we look at, if it does get to a point in the next year or two where they go, we have to cut one of Brimo, Campbell, Kinney because one of them has to sort of miss out, or they're not playing the position they want to do, or whatever it might be. As you said, like you have no confidence that any of those guys, including Kieran Foran, who's obviously twilight of his career, that will be available next week because of injuries. But Kinney, as you said, at least he's on the field every week.
Every single week. And so, yeah, and just he's, you go into a game against a guy like Reece Walsh, who, granted, hasn't had his best year, but there would be a lot of young fullbacks would go in a bit intimidated by the star that has been created with Reece Walsh. But he completely outplayed him. Like, granted, Reece Walsh had an incredible first half, but if you were to take away the names on the field and just look at performances, Kinney was out and out the better fullback on the field. And that's a huge win, especially, Reece Walsh. There's one thing you can't knock him, it's lack of trying. Like, he was there, he was doing everything he could to help the Broncos win. But yeah, Kinney, he won the day.
Keeney is genuinely one of those guys that I look at the draw every weekend to see when he's playing. He's just so exciting to watch. You can't miss him each week.
And you mentioned before, Kempy, like looking in the stands and sort of growing the supporter base of the Titans, and still plenty of work to do. But gee, they're an enjoyable team to get around because they're, particularly when they're on song like they are, they're one of the most exciting teams to watch because they've always had attack. I would argue now their attack's as good as ever. They're getting a bit of a defensive backbone about them as well. They're showing out. They're not fading out of games as much as they have in the past. As you said, Guru, fire out. You penciled it in the calendar each week. I can't wait to watch the Titans play.
Yeah. And that's you get Kinney, you got Phil Sammy, you got Kelly. Like these guys you got Campbell. These guys are showstoppers.
Isn't Phil Sammy like, I almost went to say he's so underrated, but everyone you talk to says he's underrated. It's like everyone knows how talented he is, but he just doesn't get the flowers.
No, he doesn't. I mean, he's a guy that when we had all those winger injuries, he was actually injured at the time, but I was like, you know what, he might be a shout to get a shot. He had a try assist, 21 runs, 181 metres, 53 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists, 2 offloads, 11 tackles, 0 misses. And very rarely do you watch a Titans game and does Sammy not have... He reminds me a bit of Rapana, where he is just battling for everything.
Yeah.
Battling for everything.
I love in this Titans forward pack, mate, that they've got one genuine front row forward in the starting pack, Mo Fodawaker. They run with these 3 nines, Verrills, Aaron Clark, Chris Randall. Very similar to what Canterbury's doing, a slightly smaller pack. It's working.
Yeah. Yeah, hasn't Aaron Clark found his groove? I still see him as a 13, but I tell you what, if Randall is playing as well as he's playing, you can afford to put Aaron Clark at 10.
Yep.
But yeah, you look at the forward pack, Dave Fafita, geez, wasn't he... When he's got his tail up and he's got a point to prove, he's just impossible to stop. He's just impossible to stop. Try assist, 19 runs, 172 metres, 62 post contacts, 6 tackle breaks, 20 tackles, 0 misses. But then you look across and some people might even say Beau Fermor played better. He had a try, 12 runs, 129 metres, 29 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 41 tackles and only 1 missed. It's a bloody good knock by both back rowers.
I'm looking forward to Beau Fermor's Origin debut next year, mate.
Yeah, it's got to happen, surely, sooner rather than later. He's been knocking on the door for a while now.
Yeah.
And he's been called into camp a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
So incredible performance by the Titans, and it's just exciting to see where they can go from here. I guess the only real question is that just got to find a way to keep Foz on the field.
Far out, he's playing good footy.
Because he is playing incredibly well.
Oh,
Just to go to Suncorp to do that, to go against the Broncos when they're, season on the line, you needed a 7 to... If you had a younger 7, I reckon they probably get a bit overawed by the moment. But Foz doesn't get over
Even
like
he's
that.
always been certainly in recent years left edge at the Titans. And then when Campbell came in and obviously had the preference to play left edge, Foran went to the right. I'm like, I hope this doesn't take away from his attack too much and his direct running. Hey, he's playing better since he moved
And he
over.
just hangs in games. He's so good at just hanging in games. Very easy for, as I said, I reckon if a younger 7 went up there and they're down 18-10, I reckon he probably gets a bit overawed by the moment. But Foz didn't look like he broke a sweat. Like, he stayed so calm.
I think, as you said, he's been left side dominant for a long time, but I sort of thought when they moved to the right, I thought, oh, geez, losing Fafita as a strike weapon there, it's got to take away from him. As you said, he genuinely has got better.
It's really opened up both sides of the field for him, hasn't it?
What do you reckon of Titans, mate?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, I was the only one who tipped them head to head. Not exactly a surprise to me. No, they were very exciting, building nicely, and I'm very excited about the prospect. Could they make a little charge at the 8, particularly with that price, $15? But good to see. I thought not huge numbers here, but Jaimin Jolliffe back in the side after a couple of weeks on the sideline. Played the 33 minutes, but he was so good for him before he got injured a couple of weeks ago. Great to have him back on board as well. Rounds out their forward pack really nicely. But yeah, you've just spoken about him, but both for more. I love what I see from him, and the fact that he's been able to do it at various stages in various positions. He's really flexible. And that's something I think Billy Slater will like, when you go towards next year. Guys like Kurt Catewell did a bit of that kind of role for him this year, playing in various spots. But, I thought he was super impressive again on the weekend.
Jolliffe's a big in for them this time of the year.
Yeah. Wasn't the battle between Kelly and Staggs good? So physical.
Yeah.
Holy. So, it's really exciting for the Titans. It just... This team with Tino coming back into it, you're kidding.
Yeah.
You're kidding. It is going to be scary. And I always, whenever I try to get excited about the Titans, I have to pull myself back. Just like I was excited heading into this year, I thought Desi, this young forward pack, is going to be incredible. But now that this team seems to have got on Desi's wavelength, you add Tino back into this roster?
They're the keys. You feel like every year at some stage or another you get excited for the Titans. Yeah, they've turned a corner, they're coming good, and then they let you down. But when you throw in year 2 of Desi Hasler, Tino back in, finals should be the minimum expectation of them next year.
Yeah. Man, and they're a team that they were smashed by injury at one stage. Absolutely. I mean, didn't they run out one game with Randall at 6, Clark at 7? They had.
I think they named both. It might have been Verrills and Randall in the halves at one point.
Yeah, I think it was.
Smashed by injury. And so, very, very exciting times for Titans. They were outstanding. And the key is Foran, obviously, making sure that he can stay injury-free. And hopefully recruiting a young fella coming through that's ready to take over that role. And I wonder, look, I'm being a bit getting too excited here, but could Campbell build into a 7? And I think I was asked that a few weeks ago, and I was like, that's insane. He's not even a frontline player. But with the skill set that he has, with how much he knows rugby league, could he be the next 7 of the club?
I think we're speaking about it here on the show. I
Really?
reckon. I reckon he could for sure.
Whereas a couple of weeks ago, I was like, no way. But I'm starting to go, maybe.
Him, then Brimo, and
6.
Kenny at the back. That way you can fit all those blokes in, which has been the big question mark all year.
What a game changer if he can.
It would change the whole club's future.
Yeah.
If he actually can play 7. And granted, I know I'm getting excited here, and it was only 2 weeks ago where I was like, there was absolutely no way. But when it comes to, does he have enough, let's imagine, does he have enough skill to be a 7? Yes, he has enough skill to be a 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at the same point of his career, I'd almost say he's more suited to it than what I thought Jerome Hughes was back then.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
His old boy was the pin-up boy for it, fullback to halfback for the Panthers back in the day.
Yeah.
And then Panthers and Sharks, and he did that from fullback. Campbell's now playing 5'8" and doing a terrific job there, so maybe.
And I imagine, you look at a Sam Walker who is a very off-the-cuff 7, and they've managed to make it work with him. Who knows? As I said, a couple of weeks ago, no way. Now I'm starting to think, you know what? And that's the exciting thing of the Titans is you're starting to think of possibilities. These things can happen rather than why they can't happen. Really, really good. And we're talking about a side that just went and beat the Brisbane Broncos with Susan on the line, without Brimo and without Tino. And the Broncos were essentially full strength.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And also, it's the second time they've beat the Broncos. And the last time they played the Broncos, was that the game that they had 2 hookers at 6 and 7? I'm pretty sure the last time they played the Broncos, they were decimated by injuries as well.
It's also not why the Broncos didn't get off the bus. Like, they started well too. Reece Walsh was killing them early. I know they had injuries in this game and whatnot, but as I said, Brisbane came to play.
Yep.
Yes, you are right. So they were named Randall and Verrills in halves, but Weaver end up coming in.
So a team, the last time they played the Broncos, they had Weaver as 7 and probably Verrills at 6, and they beat them, dusted them, and that was up at Suncorp, I'm pretty sure. Man, that's amazing. What a great year for the Titans. And, I cannot believe how much they've turned it around. Only Desi Hasler. On to the Brisbane Broncos. Anything else quickly for the Titans, boys?
No.
All good.
On to the Brisbane Broncos. Really poor, and I think that it's getting to the point where, it's one thing to have a bad year and kind of bow out and lose really tight games, but this is essentially the third week, at the very least the second week, the Broncos' season has been on the line and they've been completely dominated by an opposition, and the opposition isn't even a premiership threat. They're the Bulldogs, who are going out great, don't get me wrong, but they're a top 8 side. They're the Titans, who were actually beneath them at the time. It's hard for me to say, and the easy thing for me to say right now would be here's this excuse and here's that excuse, but I have to be honest, and I always try to be honest with you guys, and I think that this is much more than just players not playing good footy. I think questions need to be asked about training, about culture, about every part of the club as to why this is this. You go back last year, obviously the grand final, but you go back a year before that, we're almost seeing a similar thing where they start the year decent. Now, granted, this year they didn't start as well, but we go back to 2022. They start the year decent and then fall completely off a cliff outside the 8. Similar situation here where they start the year not as good, but still solid, and they're in the 8 and fall completely off a cliff. And as I said, it stings me to say, and the easy thing would be to look at all the excuses, but I don't think there are any excuses, and I think that, unfortunately, a review needs to be done across the whole club, and some really tough conversations need to be had in key positions and in the club, and I think that accountability needs to be a key part of this next few weeks at the Broncos, because right now they're in the bottom 4. Bottom 4.
I think the first thing you point out in this game is obviously there were key guys that got injured, but for me, mate, I think it's the cultural side of things. And you even look back to 6-7 weeks ago when this Broncos team wasn't playing for their season, but they were on a losing streak and they needed to turn it around, and they sort of played with the same intensity they're playing with at the moment. I've never really felt like they, I don't know, is it unfair to say that they just haven't been a desperate team at any point for me?
They just I've never watched them and gone, these guys are playing for their lives here.
Yeah, like there was part of me that was 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I think we're all on the same path, sort of going, they might lose a few games here, but they'll pull it together. It's the Broncos. Look at the team they've got. I almost think they sort of were thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Wait till Adam gets back and we'll be okay. They've had their pants pulled down.
Yeah, they led 18-10 at half-time with Keanu Kinney in the bin for the first 8 minutes of the second half, and you just thought, playing for their season, it's all set up for them. Yes, they'd lost Payne Haas 10 minutes in, obviously a devastating blow, but opportunity for blokes to stand up and put the front foot forward. And they went on and got obliterated in the second half. And you just sit back and go, how did that happen? And I'm with you, boys. It's pretty well rinse and repeat from last week, isn't it? They just look like a complacent side, and every single one of them out there look like they're waiting for the superstars or the bloke next to them to do something incredible and get him out of jail. And to start this game, it was Reece Walsh with 2 brilliant plays to get him on the front foot, but they're just waiting for someone else to do it for them.
Yeah, and this is where the players need to take responsibility for their performances, no doubt. But I do think that, everyone loves Kevy. He's a legend of the club. But I do think questions need to be asked as to why are the players allowing these standards to kind of be formed? Like, for example, 64 minutes in, Staggs had 4 runs, Mariner had 6 runs, Arthurs had 7 runs, and Mam in 37 minutes had 1 run. Then the game's on the line, and Walsh gets moved to 6 to defend at 6, with Jesse Arthurs at the back. I it just makes no sense to me when you've got Blake Moser on the bench that can play 9 and you can put Billy Moser and you can put Walters at 6. I just, unfortunately, I think some questions need to be asked, and I think that a review needs to be had. What is happening at like some of the misses that Dean Mariner had defensively were like, we're talking about one of the best young talents in the game, and yes, Dean Mariner made those misses, but why are we like? I think we can all agree here. Physically, he has the ability to not make those misses.
Yep.
So what is happening at training? What is happening at defensive coaches? Like why are some of the best athletes in the NRL making misses like that? Like Xavier Willison got bumped off by Cam Pereira. Like that's poor defense. And yeah, as I said, the easy thing for me would be to sit up here and talk about all these excuses and injuries, and Payne Haas went off injured and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, I have to be honest. I think there's some cultural issues there. And
you look at the edge defence of the Broncos has been so poor for so long, and you go, all right, you talk about trying to make those excuses. Ezra Mam, last 37 minutes, could you put it on, that impacting as well? Of course that impacts you, but, mate, your edge defence was shot a long time before he went off the field. So,
but also, like, if we lost 18-6, like 20-18, and they absolutely ripped and teared and they lost to a better side, then you go, okay, that's when you can look at the excuses. You lost like 36-0 in the second half. Like, against a team that essentially was in the bottom 4.
Titans also had a player off the field for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Kenny got Simbin just before half time the other night.
Yep. It's really disappointing. And I think that the biggest problem at the Broncos too is that last year their defence was so good that it allowed us to almost not even have much of a game plan and just go, let's just win field position with our defence. We get Reece Walsh the ball, magic happens. Whereas I look at the best clubs and they can afford to, when they lose key players, they don't drop anywhere near as much because they've got systems that other players plug in and play. And so, yes, for example, when Nathan Cleary's out at the Penrith Panthers, are they as good as a side without Nathan Cleary? No, but they're still closer to what Nathan Cleary is when he plays. Because the system is the main star. And I worry at the Broncos is that our players, like 1 or 2 players are our stars rather than the system being the star. And then I look at the Warriors and I go, is that a similar situation there where they've got key players that are stars rather than the system being the star? And the Broncos, I just think that because our defence has fallen off an absolute cliff compared to last year, we don't have any systems to fall back on. It's basically like, get the ball to Reece Walsh, hopefully he does something.
Yeah, and I've been critical of, like, I am at different stages with, all right, do the Knights use Kalen Ponga as effective as they could, or, do Manly use Tom Trbojevic as effective as they could, at different periods where they just don't seem to be getting enough quality ball, and you go, why? But, to your point, Campy, with the Broncos, they do look like a team just completely reliant on Reece Walsh to pull things out of his backside when the reality is they've got attacking weapons all over the place. Why does it all have to revolve around Reece Walsh and just getting him early ball?
Yeah. Really, really poor.
If it if it doesn't improve for the back end of this season, do you think there's a world where Kev Walters might not be there for round 1 next year?
I think that he will, depending on what happens to the review. As I said, I think that the review needs to happen and we need to find out why. Like even like a guy like Paddy, he looks tired. Doesn't look like he's enjoying his footy. Like, why are the boys like that? I think that depending on what the review says, I think at the very least, heading into next year, unfortunately, Kevy's job is under pressure. And it stings me to say that. And as I said, the easy thing for me would be to sit up here and pretend like that's not my opinion. We all love Kevy and like everything he's done for the club. But unfortunately, you look at the results over the last 4 years and that's just my opinion. That's my honest opinion. I don't like it. I hope more than anything that this playing roster and Kevy and the coaching staff he has next year kill it. Like, that's what I would want more than anything. But my honest opinion is, yes, his job should be under pressure heading into next year.
Wild to see who you go to next if it wasn't to be Kev.
Tough one.
Who's out there?
Tough one. Well, I don't want to start talking about that yet because we're not there yet. But they're in a really, really tough spot, and I think a review is definitely like even like little things like Walsh kicking on the first. So he kicks on the first tackle, doesn't score, gives away a 7-tackle set. Kinney then goes up and scores at the other end of the field. His bomb goes up, Oates drops it, and then like little things like that. Because like Reece Walsh is the kind of player where he needs strong leadership to funnel his talent. But because the Broncos have basically said, Reece, we need you to win us everything, it's forcing him to make these plays. And like he's an Energizer bunny. And those kind of guys, they're in everything. They want to play in everything. But they need good leaders that are older, that have played more rugby league to go, here are the... Like, that's why last year was so good, is because he chose his moments so well. Whereas this year, the pressure has been put so much on Walsh to win games for us that he makes these errors where if he's in a good system, he'll know where to pop up. He'll know when to inject himself.
And he's just a roller coaster, isn't he? Like week in, week out, like that start from him,
crazy.
That was a bloke desperate to lift his team off the canvas and get him into finals footy. Like the effort there for the bomb and kick chase himself was just an incredible try. And then, as you said, it goes up the other side of the field with Kinney. It was a Jojo Fafita line break, and the support was covered on the inside. Walsh just had to make the tackle, and he did like the big jump in between to go to knock the board, not to go for the intercept. It's like, mate, they scored on the same play because Jojo's popped an offload try, done. It's like,
and so that's
bring it together, mate.
And that's where we like Reece needs good leadership to go. We don't need you to win everything for us, but unfortunately, that's the pressure. I think anyway. It seems when I'm watching, and you guys can tell me, it seems like the Broncos are saying, mate, we need you to do everything to win this game for us.
I feel sorry for him. He's busting his ass. He just, because everything's on him, when he does the things like that, so criticised, but far out. He's a young bloke. He's given everything he can.
And I thought in the second half, I thought there was a few times he created opportunities that his teammates didn't do him any favours.
Yeah, so really, really disappointing. As always, though, I back the boys. Hope we can turn it around. But unfortunately, at the moment, I think there's a lot of work to do as a club to get the club back to where I believe it should be. Just stings, man. Honestly, just makes me upset thinking about it. But it is what it is. Always support the boys. Hopefully they can turn around.
And remember last year we said, like, if Brisbane could just complete it 80+%, like no one's touching them. They completed it 83% against the Titans.
Mate, it's because their defence has fallen off a cliff. Like some of the, as I said, the misses that Mariner made were like, I just couldn't believe it. Like these are pretty basic tackles. And then Willison getting bumped, like out of fence. I want to know, like the worry that I have is, okay, so Ben Eichen moved on. Okay, sweet. All right, he moved on. Now both of the assistant coaches are leaving. Like, what's happening? That's not a club that's doing well if you're losing all these key people in key positions over such a short period of time.
Considered 87 points in 2 weeks with your season on the line.
Defence has just been... I want to know what has changed. Like, what standards are we walking past as a team that we didn't do last year? Last year, our defence was incredible. This year, it's just like our edge defence has just no bearing as to how to defend together. The systems are out the window. Like, what are we doing at training where the players are so confused they don't know which decision to make? As I said, I think this is a lot deeper than players' form. I think there's a lot to look at. I think there needs to be reviews. I think honest, tough conversations need to be had. But, as I said, back the boys to the death. Anything else on the Broncos, mate?
Nothing.
All good?
Yep, all good.
All righty. Now, on to Storm v. the Dragons. Talk about some positives here. Holy, the Dragons. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Flanagan, his ability to, like, especially against Melbourne, like you always go back to that grand final when they beat Melbourne. He just had this perfect game plan just to ruffle feathers. Goes down to Melbourne, gets the job done. They're such a unique team, the Dragons, and I say it each week, and I'm falling more and more in love with it. I love the fact that they are building a certain DNA as a club, a DNA as a team. It's one thing to, like, whether you win or you lose, that's one thing. But another thing is that, like, the best teams, you can see there's a DNA to them. There's a style of rugby league. There's a way they kind of stand beside their mate. There's a way they kind of stick together. And what I love so much about the Dragons is, win or lose, they're playing like a Shane Flanagan's Dragons side. And they're almost like, they're the Titans, but like 10 weeks earlier. You know, they're the Titans if they didn't go 0-6 at the start of the year. They fully bought into Flanagan's systems. They're fully bought into his game plans. And they're starting to believe. We said this, about 6-7 weeks ago? We felt like they're sitting in the dressing room, and the old Dragons team used to sit in the dressing room going, probably don't have the team on paper, and let's just try and go out there and make as little errors as possible and just try not to beat ourselves. Whereas this Dragon side's going out there and going, nah, fuck that. We're throwing everything on the line and we're doing everything we can to win it. And if we go out and embarrass ourselves and lose by a lot, who gives a shit? It is so good to watch. They're fast becoming one of my most enjoyable teams to watch, which is crazy for me to say this because I'm telling you right now, the Dragons the last couple of years did not excite me at all. I think the turnaround's been absolutely incredible.
I love seeing Benny Hunt have these games when he goes up against some of the best in the competition. He just stands and reminds everyone how talented he is. Tyrell Sloan as well, dropped to reserve grade last week. I think he's only got back in there because of injury. Was that the best game he's played?
Mate, what I love about it is that it's the defense stuff that he's working on. And also Sloan, it's one thing when I used to play NRL, playing against the bottom tier sides or even just the middle tier sides, that was one thing. But to have a big game against a Melbourne Storm was a totally different kettle of fish. It just didn't happen because they were the best of the best. And Sloan has just shown everyone, when everyone keeps raving about this potential, you just saw he just did that against the top of the table Melbourne Storm after the week. Last week he was in reserve grade. So that's where the ceiling is. It's just a matter of can Flanagan build him up to it.
And credit to Flanagan. There must have been part of him that thought, do I just play Lomax here? I've made the decision to drop this guy to reserve grade. Is the Melbourne Storm the game that I bring him back in?
I wonder whether it was was this pre-planned? What I'll do is I'll drop Sloan before Melbourne, rev him up, get the Melbourne win?
Well, I'd love, if Fangai was available, I'd love to see who would have played there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's seriously just amazing.
Yeah, remarkable victory. Credit to them. And 20 minutes to go, the Dragons are up by 2 against a side with Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes, Harry Grant coming at you. The last 6 minutes, there was just relentless attack at the line. The Dragons obviously playing for top 8 spot, but this is the Storm who have the second best statistical attack in the competition this season. And the desperation the Dragons had, not just then, but the entire game, and their scramble defence. Anytime there was a half break made, there were just Dragons' bodies everywhere. You saw the reaction from Ben Hunt at the end of the game. He exploded. He was so pumped up about it. I would love to have been in the sheds to hear what Shane Flanagan said to them before the game, because this side were going out there just saying, we're not losing this game of footy. It doesn't matter what we have to do to get there. We're going to come down here. Everyone's written us off. What a remarkable win.
And what I loved about the win as well is if they were $7, they were paying $7. If for them to win, I would have thought they would have gone down there and everything that could possibly stuck. And somehow, some way, the Storm rocked up, played terribly, and the Dragons win by 10 or 12 points. The Dragons won a gritty grind fest.
That's Melbourne.
That's insane. In Melbourne. They've never won a game there pretty much. What is it?
Since 99. John Howard still had one term to run as Prime Minister. People were battening down the hatches for Y2K last time they won down there. And they come out and win this week. I think of all the good Dragons teams there's been since then. They won a comp, all sorts of stuff since then. Very impressive. And it talks to, great coaching, really. Think of where they were last year. They were contending for the spoon with the Tigers, last couple of years before that as well. Flanagan's done a great job. They look like a team that's enjoying their footy, and that was a great win. Yeah.
When there's such a lopsided result like this, and you go, where'd it come from? As you said, Kemp, it's normally you're making excuses for the Storm or why are they so bad. No matter what way you look at it, the Dragons just wanted more and played better footy. The Storm weren't bad. The Dragons were better.
Yeah, phenomenal. And that last 5 minutes, I'm sitting there going, look, this is going to be one of the games where the Dragons go, we're going to get here on Monday and go, what a lot of fight. They showed so much fight. The Storm, being the best team in the comp, just pipped them, or one of the best teams. And I thought that was a guarantee. I thought the Storm were absolutely going to win that last 5 to 7 minutes. The Dragons were just nah, not happening. Not happening.
Mate, Harry Grant scored with 20 minutes to go. I did the same. I thought, fuck,
yeah.
I hope they win this by too much now. I just thought momentum would swing, but the Dragons just bite down on the mouthguard.
And it's just a good example. And I feel like this year has been like the story of this year is it doesn't matter what your team is on paper. Like it really has been an example of we've seen battler clubs with at the start of the year, we looked at the Bulldogs roster, we looked at the Dragons roster, and we said, you know what, like there might be some progress, but this roster isn't good enough to play finals footy. And both teams have been coached immaculately. And I tell you what, like Serraldo will probably win Coach of the Year. Shane Flanagan is like this close to second Coach of the Year.
Imagine Flano taking the Dragons to the top 8 and doesn't get Coach of the Year.
Like that's...
I went into this round thinking, this could be a bit of a bludger of a weekend, looking at the odds for each game. And it came out and it was just such a shout out to the NRL salary cap in each run because the competition is so... seriously, like the competition is
still
so...
a bit of work to do with some teams. But
yeah, look, I mean, I'm not saying everyone follows it, but the concept is good. But like the Roosters, red hot favourites against the Dolphins, 1-6, could easily have lost that game. The Eels, massive underdogs, beat the Warriors. Broncos, not as much that one, but the Dragons, huge outsiders, got the job done there.
$7 head-to-head.
$7. The Knights could have beaten Penrith at Penrith. It was a crazy weekend of footy, and you sit back and just appreciate it.
Well, the Broncos is a good example because look at that Broncos side and the Titans.
Times for $3.
Like, so it's, mate, just an amazing season for the Dragons. And I tell you what, I was really critical of the Dragons and the way they've handled everything the last few years, the Benny Hunt, everything, all that stuff that's happened. But you've got to give credit where credit's due to the administration, to the coaching staff, to everyone on board. This year's been amazing from the Dragons.
You mentioned that Coach of the Year competition, obviously. The Bulldogs, they've won 11 games. The Dragons have won 10. They play each other this week.
Jeez, yeah.
Like if the Dragons managed to knock over Canterbury this week, which I imagine they'd be 250
228.
220, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good.
You know what's insane? If you had said to me at the start of the year, Dragons versus Bulldogs might be game of the year,
To decide Coach of the Year.
I would have said, you are off your head. Like, what are we, like, are we 2011, 2012?
Yeah.
You're kidding me. And yet I cannot be more excited to watch the Dragons versus Bulldogs.
Yeah. The Dragons, they're sitting 8th at the moment. 5 games to go.
I cannot believe that.
Most of the games are against teams in the bottom 8 this weekend accepted, but 2 of the games are at Cogra, 2 are at Wynn Stadium. They have a very good chance to make the finals, having been like contending for the spoon 2 or 3 years in a row.
That game being at Cogra is perfect as well.
Yeah. What a performance. All right, in regards to actual performances on the field, and what's incredible at the Dragons is, if you had said to me that the Dragons beat the Storm, I would have said, okay, Zach Lomax scored 3 tries and set up another 6 of them. Mate, he had his quietest game all year nearly.
And they hardly kick to him either. So usually that's the whole game plan.
Like, he still plays solidly, don't get me wrong, but he had a really quiet game. Obviously, Benny Hunt was out great. We'll get to Benny Hunt. But for me, it was Sewer.
Yeah.
I've loved Sewer's attitude this year. Like, he ended up getting dropped from the Queensland side, but I remember we did an interview last year, and guys, interviews are coming back. Trust me, so stay tuned for that. But Sewer came on the podcast and said very confidently, I want to play Origin again. And as soon as he said it, me personally, I was like, I believe that, because I remember Sewer coming through. He was the big dog coming through with the Broncos. So I was like, I can see that. But as soon as he said it, I knew what the audience would say. I knew the comments or the feeling, oh, mate, this bloke's kidding himself. Origin. And he has backed himself all the way in, got back into Origin, and he has easily been in the top 3 players for the Dragons this year. Easily. And I just love stories like that. And it just shows you that's good coaching from Flanagan again, to get a guy that went from Origin, had a couple really quiet years all the way back into Origin contention. That's bloody good coaching.
I genuinely, at the start of the year, I was he wasn't an automatic in this starting side for me. I'd have him in the 17, but he wasn't like an automatic pick in the back row. It's been really up and down for him the last few years. He's been great. Tommy Eisenhuth, mate, played 67 minutes in this game, made 47 tackles, only 1 miss there. Got through a lot of work. I thought Harmsele was good coming off the pine as well. They're they just hang in, don't they?
Yeah. Bellin's been great at 10 all year as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, actually, sorry, I think Harmsele ended up starting in this one. Yeah, he did, and they brought Jack de Bellin off the bench.
I just said 10. He's great at 10.
I said he came off the pine. I was wrong.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying to me.
No, I
was wrong. Oh, that's hilarious.
I'll pull you up on one later, don't worry.
Okay, don't worry. Yeah, mate, it's been outstanding. The amount of players that have just lifted. Another guy I want to give a shout out, Kyle Flanagan. When he got signed there, I was just like, we spoke about it. We said this is a disaster waiting to happen. The Dragons, if they play poorly, the headline is going to be headline after headline after headline. Kyle Flanagan, Shane Flanagan, blah blah blah. We haven't. I don't even think we've seen one headline. And as I said, like I thought with Kyle Flanagan, he's had so many chances at the Doggies, with the Roosters, all that. He had so many opportunities, and I just thought, you know what? He's just not an NRL half. Maybe he goes overseas, comes back, and he can be that. Mate, he's been the unsung hero in that spine this year for them.
Mate, the right edge, the attack, and the left edge of the defence, Kyle Flanagan, Moses Sully. Two blokes who struggle to play NRL at different stages throughout their career and have spent a lot of time in New South Wales Cup. I've harped on about Sully in his defence all year, but Flanagan, terrific as well. Flano made 34 tackles against the Storm and did not miss one. Moses Sully, 13 tackles and did not miss one. That edge defensively this season has been top-notch.
Sully in attack, he is such a handful at the moment.
I love that Sully almost gets up for top tier games. Like often we see let's say Sully is he's not a top tier centre, even though I think that you put him up against any centre and he's going to go all right. But usually players that are in his ranking of centres, they go a bit quiet when they play Penrith and they play Melbourne. Sully's almost the opposite. He almost waits for those big games and loves it.
I don't know about you guys. I don't remember a game this year where a centre really got the better of him.
No, I think he won't probably get the credit for it because a lot of what he does is defensively and people want these highlight reel attacking moments, but he's getting so close to top tier defensive, centre in the game. We're not putting him in a class of sort of Stephen Crichton and a couple of others, but for what he does defensively, I would have him near top 3 defensive centres in the NRL. He's getting very close to that echelon.
Well, he's the kind of guy that, as I said, if you had just take out the teams outside of it and you just matched him up against any centre in the competition, I'll be confident that he won't get completely bathed by the opposition. Which is he may not dominate Stephen Crichton, but I tell you what, I would be confident that he could handle Critter. That's how good he is this year.
We'll get a good look at that this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cannot
Great
wait. You know what? Famous last words. Sully fucking get absolutely buffed by Critter.
So they're on each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What an awesome matchup to look forward to this weekend.
Please play well, Sully. Who else stood out for you boys?
I think for me, mate, just on that game this weekend, I want to see the Dragons back it up so much.
Yeah.
I feel like that has been a thing.
That's the only negative for them. Is the inconsistency. But you know what? From where they were at to where they're at now,
100%.
Inconsistency every day of the week.
Yeah.
Now they're reportedly in the market for maybe Corey Horsburgh and maybe Val Holmes. Not bad. 2 blokes to add to their roster if they do add to the roster next year.
Might be unreal.
Yeah.
Well, and then you add in one of the unsung heroes all year, and we have spoken about it a fair bit, Jacob Little.
Yeah.
He's been terrific.
And Cookie comes next year as well.
So Cookie comes in and you go, Cookie's obviously going to be starting number 9 for them, but that gives them so much strike at hooker because Little's done it. The biggest thing against Little in his career has been just injuries. He keeps getting injured, but he's stringing games together this season. He's been awesome for them.
Yeah.
How about Little going toe-to-toe with Big Nasty?
Oh.
Yeah.
Holy.
How's the kahunas on Little?
Oh. Not Little, that's for
Big
sure.
kahuna, yeah. we got there.
So really, really good game from the Dragons and super excited. And when you start considering, okay, maybe they'll add Holmes, maybe they'll add Cook, maybe Corey Horsburgh, it just keeps getting better and better next year. Onto the Storm. I feel like this is one of those games that complacency might be too harsh of a word, but I did get a tinge of that in this game. I did get a tinge of they probably thought it was going to be easy than it ended up being. They're still the Melbourne Storm, so they have their lowest kind of game is still like a 7.5 out of 10. But that extra bit of energy that we've seen in recent months, especially against say the Roosters or whatever, I did think that was lacking this week against the Dragons.
It kind of felt like the 4 stars were just waiting for one of them to really grab this game, and it just never. Which I sort of just give credit to the Dragons to be completely honest. I just thought they defended incredibly well, but as I said, with 20 minutes to go, I thought they'd run away with this one.
Yeah, look, when the game finished, I was very critical of the Storm, sort of sitting there like, how can they afford to lose? Not afford to, they're top of the table by a margin, but lose a game like that to the Dragons, pushing for a top 8 spot. On reflection, mate, they have been up all season. They had a 4-point gap at the top of the table. They came up against a side who were desperate and wanted to keep their season alive and prove a point, and they did that exceptionally well. Is it a bad loss for the Storm? Yeah, it is, but I keep saying it. It is a very long season. You're going to have a down week at some point. Melbourne are no different to anyone else.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that, even watching the game, I wasn't sitting there going, that's why I say there was a tinge of complacency. I wouldn't go as far to say as they walked out there and were just like, we're going to dominate this side. Especially the further I get away from the game, I just think the Dragons were so up for the fight that I think a lot of people are going, well, Dragons, they're a bottom 8 side. We're number 1. Whereas I really do feel like the Dragons played like a top 6 side. The Dragons' performances lifted up rather than the Storm's performances dropping so far down. It was just the perfect kind of environment for an ambush. It really did.
And you know what, Kempy? The Storm going into this game with a 15-3 record for the season and 4 points clear at the top of the table, they could afford to be a little bit complacent. They had earned that right. They could afford to lose that game. They're still probably short, well, not necessarily that short of favourites for the minor premiership anymore because the Storm play the Panthers. But, we talk about the Broncos being complacent or the Warriors. They had not earned the right to do that. They could not afford to lose a game. The Storm could. It happens.
I really didn't think they played that poorly, to be honest.
Yeah. And I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but you had a Shane Flanagan side who was coming off a 46-10 defeat.
As I said, it's a perfect environment for an ambush.
Yeah.
And Flano, he loves going up against a top tier side because now they've knocked off Penrith and they've knocked off the Storm.
Yep.
They've knocked off Manly. I know Manly aren't necessarily top tier side.
I think they beat Canterbury too, didn't they? Season?
So
maybe not.
He really does have a habit of almost gearing up for these top tier games. I think the Roosters are really the only top tier side they haven't beaten and been beaten handedly by.
Tigers in round 6, huh?
Big scalps, a lot of big scalps.
In regards to performance, look, some positives though. That kick, try assist for Munster. Try assist from Hughes. Line break and try assist from Hughes. He is just electric. He is electric when he gets going. And I think that heading into finals footy, you have to remember, Munster and Hughes, watching the game, I did get a feel that Grant at times was a little bit confused as to who to get the ball to. And I felt like Hughes probably didn't get the ball as much. And I'd love to see, could you, as we're talking, get up his touches compared to last week or two? Because that is one area that I think is not going to get enough credit, Storm aren't going to get enough leeway for, is the fact that Munster and Hughes actually haven't played barely any footy together this year. And that's actually it's actually going to be harder for Harry Grant to work out. Because I'll put it this way, I feel like last year we could safely say this is Munster's team. I kind of reckon this is Jerome Hughes' team this year.
Well, I think now it is.
Yeah.
Storm have underwhelmed for a few years on the trot now, and they just started playing some of the best footy we've seen from them in years with Jerome Hughes as a dominant number 7 with a part-time 5'8" and Tyron Wishart next to him. So I think it is Jerome Hughes' team.
And I think you could see at times Harry Grant kind of a little bit, Munster's been the big dog for a long time, but Hughes is. So I think once they work out the balance there, we'll see a bit better.
42 touches of the footy for Cam Munster, 40 for Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, okay. Which is, you don't really want that in any team. Really, you want your 7 touching the ball more than your 6.
And Munster, he's good as a second fiddle. Doesn't mean he's the second best player in the halves, but Jerome Hughes is the 7. Let him organise the team and get around the park. Munster, you chime in, you get the ball when you want it.
It's funny how the numbers back up the eye test.
Yep.
I genuinely got that feeling. What do you got there, Matty?
I've gone back. So, yeah, as you said, Guru, 40 for Hughes last week. The week before, he had 52 touches. So
He had 12 more touches the week before.
the week before.
And, you could argue with 12 more touches, is that a try?
Well, and also like with him having 12 more touches, as Timmy said, Tyron Wishart playing incredible footy.
Yeah.
As the second fiddle guy.
Yeah.
Against the Roosters, he had 48, so still considerably more as well.
I wonder whether it's his like lowest touches so far this year. So that'll be a balance I think they have to find, in my opinion, and obviously Bellyache will be a little bit more about footy than me. I think they should lean heavy into Hughes for the rest of the year because he's been there all year, and just say, Munster, mate, we just need you chiming in.
And Hughes is literally on track to win a Dalian medal. He's been the form player of the competition for a long period now. Like, you have to.
Yep. Anyone else stand out for you guys with the Storm?
Not really, mate.
I just want to give Jack Howarth a compliment, guys. Like, we've been talking about this guy for ages. They released Remus Smith this week.
I know.
That's how far he's come. Unbelievable.
Locks him in sort of longer term, centers his spot, and I mean, if they've released Remus, it's pretty telling, isn't it?
And do you remember, I think it was 18 months, 2 years ago, Remus Smith was out for a few weeks and they just fell into a heap on one edge defensively.
Remus is gone, hey? Like,
Yeah.
on the plane in
He's
England.
Super League, yeah. Catalans, eh?
What a remarkable thing to do at this time of the season when you're in line to win a premiership.
Yeah, I find it like, I guess maybe the timing of it, maybe the contract he was getting offered needed to happen now.
Well, they just let a couple of players go, didn't they, Catalans?
Yes, true.
Season, so they probably
True.
needed some back up.
But Howarth, isn't his journey interesting? Because he came into the squad as a centre, out-and-out centre. Then they go, okay, he's probably not a centre, he's probably a back rower. And even this year, he was a back rower. Gets an opportunity in the NRL as a centre, and they go, oh, hang on a sec, we might have our centre here. I still think long-term he's probably a back rower, but geez, like the versatility to have a guy that can play both. That, I mean, has an origin and kind of proven that point. Like, his value now is like through the roof.
By the way, it was Hughes' fourth lowest of the year.
Fourth lowest of the year.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know in those other games, did they win or lose and all that kind of stuff. That'd be interesting to see. Yeah, Howarth's been outstanding. Pappy, a little bit quiet this game.
He's getting injections in his foot.
Yeah, okay.
And, mate, he ran for 69 metres from 10 runs. So, yeah.
How longer might come in, you reckon?
Well, you do wonder, like, I don't know whether it's an injury where, like, if they give him a month off, they can get it right and get back to where he needs to be. But you can tell he's looked okay, but Ryan Pappen has 10 runs, 69 metres is remarkably low for him. Is it something they can give him a month off, play for longer, get him right and fully fit for finals? Because they need him exploding if they're going to beat a Penrith Panthers team come finals.
I went to have a quick look, but that was actually only Hughes' second loss of the whole year.
Yeah, wow.
So
Far out.
it's hard to say.
Second loss this year.
Yeah, the only other loss was the Manly game.
Yeah, wow. Quick shout out, Blore and Katoa. Didn't have their best games, but at the same time, like, Blore, how far he's come. We have to remember this bloke couldn't make a bloody Tiger side. No offense. Now he's a definite starter in this. And also even at the start of the year, he wasn't a definite starter. But this is how far he's progressed. Is he is locked in to that edge back row. So both back rowers, 33 tackles for Blore, 27 for Katoa. They only missed one tackle each.
If you were told at the start of the year that like that stat line would be quiet games for both of these two, I think you'd be stoked.
Yeah, you'd be stoked as. I mean, yeah, Katoa still ran for 120 metres, 75 for Blore, which is not too bad for back rowers. Trent Lioro got through a mountain of work, 173 metres, 68 post contact. No tackle break, so that was all just bloody hard running. 42 tackles, only one miss. Trent Lioro, he does remind me a little bit, again, probably not the same level of player, but like Paddy Carrigan when he first started, where they work their backsides off, but sometimes they work too hard and they fatigue themselves, and then they make like an error here or a misread here. So I do love his effort though. Like Trent Lioro works his ass off constantly. I think it's just finding that balance. I think that'll be the best thing for Trent Lioro.
He's starting to come into his own though.
For sure. I mean, like the Origin camp would have done wonders for him. Absolute wonders.
Did you notice as they came off at halftime, he actually like grabbed Cam Munster and he was having a chat to him about where they wanted to get on the field and everything. And you could see Munster wasn't just nodding along; he was listening to what he was saying. Yeah.
Okay, we actually didn't speak about it. Stefano lands at Melbourne. Love it.
Yeah, love it for him. Yeah, it's going to be. Isn't this the guy we've been calling for? It almost feels like 3 years.
Yeah.
It's essentially since Cheese left.
Yep.
I think we've been asking for this guy. So Very interesting how he goes. I know like there's mixed opinions out there and whatnot, but if there's any system that's going to get the best out of him, it has to be this one.
Well, I mean, how often do these, like, some fans, and it's a loud minority, it's not majority of fans, but like they bag this next generation of like not being tough and not being, you're entitled and you just want these big things. And then we finally get this young front rower that's 23, 24 years old, takes less money and goes to literally the toughest organisation you can go to. I think he deserves credit for that because if he goes down there and fails, like that's like I understand that he would have less pressure at a club that's not going as well to a degree because they're not going as well. But the pressure is on Stefano. If he goes down there and fails, like it's almost a little bit embarrassing because it's basically saying you couldn't cut it at the best with the tough stuff. Like it's a big test to his ego to go down there, in my opinion.
Yeah, if he doesn't do well there, the optics aren't good for him at all.
Yeah.
With the figures floating around that he was chasing and what he was going to get at other clubs, I genuinely believe that whichever club signed him on the figures floated, they were not going to get the value for money worth of him. And I didn't think that he was worth that amount of money. I think the Storm are the exception where Craig Bellamy will get the best out of him. I think he's exactly what they need, just a bit more size through the middle. I think he's going to be perfect for them. As you said, if there is anything in him that is, if he is a little bit softer in areas and week to week and getting this consistency as a top-line NRL front rower, Bellamy's going to get it out of his game. Yeah. It's just the perfect fit for Stefano and for Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited to see what they can do with Stefano down there. As we just spoke about, like, Blore couldn't make the Tigers side. Look what he's done. Imagine what I think Stefano's going to be great. And I agree with you, Timmy. Like, I believe that the numbers that were getting floated around, I believe that those numbers were actually lining up with potential and not with what he has actually done on the field yet. And so with the Storm having taken a bit of a pay cut as well, that's probably an accurate amount for what he's worth. Because we have to remember, just for the audience, like the reason why you see guys like Stefano, there's all this hype around them, but there's all like the market value. There's a lot of clubs that are interested. It's his body shape and ability to play 40, 50 minutes. It's really, really rare. And so there's so many clubs out there that believe, you know what, if you come to us and we train you, we can get the best out of you. And like, it's almost like if you're a winger that's like super fast and 6'3" and 100 kilos, you're always going to have clubs that are super keen on you. It's like a front rower because you go through all the rosters. How many teams really have a big bopper like Stefano in it? Like you've got obviously Nelson, you've got Payne Haas, and like every team big bopper like that is their main guy. Tarpiner, Fish, like. And so they're actually not as common as a lot of people think. Whereas like a back rower or a smaller front rower or even centre, that body shape is actually quite normal. And so the reason why Stefano is in such high demand is that if you can get the best out of him, he has such a unique body frame and also his ability to get through big minutes. That's why the price is a little bit higher than you would normally see with back rowers and that. Whereas like a back rower, let's say you're a back rower with the body shape of Scotty Sorensen, just on purely not what he's done, but if you were just like a lot of clubs would go, well, look at his body shape. It's actually quite a common body shape. His speed is quite common. His explosiveness is quite common. So those are the ones where the market almost forces the price down because the body shape and the physique is quite common. But the difference with Scotty Sorensen is obviously he fucking puts it all together and plays really well. Thoughts about losing Stefano at the Tigers?
Yeah, can't wait to see another player go and excel at another club, probably go back, play Origin again and kill it. Look, I mean, this year and last year probably his best and his worst have been, a little bit far apart. There's been a few areas have kind of crept in and a few things like that. There's no denying that when he's at his best, I mean, he's been in an Origin side before. He's been around that squad a little bit as well. He just doesn't look like a very happy footballer this year, I think, for a lot of external noise, all that sort of stuff. I think you guys have hit the nail on the head, probably going down there on a little bit less than he was getting offered at other clubs as well. He's going to do him the world of good. If you go into a system that's pretty well set, he'll probably play some really good footy. Sad for Tigers fans. He'll probably get back to some of that best form, but he certainly hasn't looked happy in the environment that he's been in this year. So, I mean, he needed a change, but it is sad to see yet again a very talented player leave because they're not happy there. But what do you do?
Well, you got happy there.
Yeah, we still got happy. That's true.
Well, you said there's not happy
He
there.
looks pretty happy.
Alrighty, Sharkies defeat South 20-6. Don't forget, guys, grab a case of bloke beer. Beer for blokes to turn up for family, mates, and good times. Cronulla Sharks defeat South 20-6. This is an interesting one for me because like halfway through, about halfway through, I'm going, oh, this is not as good as what I would have hoped for the Sharkies. But in the end, they win 20-6, and you can nitpick a bit and you can look at reasons as to why, if they want to win a premiership, this, that, and the next thing. They win 20-6. They don't have their main ball player. Trindle ended up going off with I think 20 minutes to go or about 15 minutes to go. I didn't mind this win from the Sharkies. Just a good, solid win. It's exactly what they needed. Yes, granted, I understand the Souths were missing Cody Walker. I get all that. But you know what? You look at some of these other clubs that are really struggling at the bottom of the table. I'll take a good, solid 20-6 win over the Souths any day of the week. I didn't mind this win from the Sharkies.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but they got the job done. I really thought this had a bit of an upset smell to it during the week. I thought it was a bit of a danger game. Obviously, Cody Walker got ruled out. That potentially changed things a little bit, but mate, for where they're sitting on the ladder, just get 2 points.
I think any sniff of an upset was gone when Cody was ruled out. It's just the points, as it played out. They actually had some attacking opportunities and made 4 or 5 line breaks. The Bunnies just couldn't capitalise on it. You could also say the same about the Sharks. They scored 4 tries in the end, but numerous tries disallowed. So, I mean, as you said, Kempy, it didn't feel like the best win, but the Sharks, so you sit there questioning, the defence at stages. They conceded 1 try. It was a pretty comfortable win. So, look, hard to knock.
It's hard to be too critical. It's a 20-6 win is just a good, solid win. I think, if you start getting caught up in, was it this standard or that standard? It's very different if they won 40-30. Then you're like, oh shit, they've just leaked 30 points. But 26 win against the South side that is way better than the South side earlier in the year. And what I did admire with the Sharkies is just their patience. They didn't panic when it looks like, oh crap, this might be a bit of an upset. Even in the game, they didn't let it get to them. They just got through their work, stayed patient, got the job done. I think you can't, as I said, look, in a perfect world, how exciting would it be if they went out there and it was 30 points to 6? I get all that. But 20 points to 6, it's a good solid win. You move on to next week. I didn't mind it. As I said, middle of the game is when I was like, I don't really know how I feel about this game because the standard's not that good. But at the end of the day, win's a win. And it's not like it was 10-6 or 8-6. We're talking a good solid win. What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, pretty, not if underwhelming is the right word, but just did what they had to do. Put away a team that were, probably put the queue in the rack for the year just about, you'd have to say. But keeps themselves in the top 4. I think this week will be a little bit tougher. They got the Titans this week. Obviously, they're coming in off a little bit of good form, so that'll kind of test them a bit more. But look, just did what they had to do, I guess, in a nutshell.
And I think that it's been really interesting, kind of my thoughts on the Sharkies, because when I look at them and how much hope I have for them, sometimes I find myself getting a little bit disappointed as to hoping that they can win a premiership and they can move, further up the table. But then when I look at them relative to other teams that have been up and down over the last few years, I go, you know what? If I'm a Sharks fan, I'm pretty bloody happy if I'm looking at some of these other teams that are, making grand finals and then you look at the Broncos, you look at the Eels, you look at the Warriors. I think you sit there as a Sharkies fan and go, you know what? I'm pretty happy.
We spoke about it last week. The last 3 teams to lose a grand final are sitting 14th, 15th, 16th at the moment.
Yeah.
Sharkies are just hanging about there every year.
Top 4 at the moment.
Right now, if you were to ask me, what's a good year for the Sharkies, I'd say a preliminary final is a really good year, especially they can finish top 4, do all that. But as you said, Kempy, you look at their 1-17, especially when you add Nico back in it, and you go, why not a grand final? It's a pretty damn good roster.
I think I'd be happy with a prelim this year. And then with Adam Fennell-Blake in this roster, I go, ooh, it's a pretty bloody good roster. Okay, in regards to performances, Ido for me, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And what I love about Ido is his response to signing that contract. You have to remember, a guy like Ido, you'd have to think there's other clubs that came knocking. You'd have to think. And he stayed patient. First of all, that's a credit to Craig Fitzgibbon. I tell you what, Craig Fitzgibbon's relationship with his players, it's probably one of the most underrated things in the competition. And why I say that is you've got guys like Talakai and Ito who could definitely get bigger contracts elsewhere that just, they stay patient. You look at guys like Trindle, who could have left last year when he wasn't getting a crack. He stayed patient. And yet they seem to be loyal to Fitzgibbon. They seem to really, really buy in and trust Fitzgibbon. Because like how many people would have been telling Ito, mate, I know Craig Fitzgibbon's telling you that you're next up if anything happens, but please, come on, let's be real here. There's no loyalty, and somehow, some way, Fitzgibbon has built enough trust for Ito to go, nah, I trust ya, and that trust has been rewarded with not only when he did come in and play really well, Fitzgibbon kept him in the side, but now he's signed a contract extension, and then that trust builds even more because what Ito does is goes, I signed a contract extension, I'm not going to get lazy now, I'm actually going to take another step forward. He was one of the best on the field, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he was listening to the Rugby League Guru podcast for the last 2.5 years, he would have heard it week in, week out from me. But, mate, he's persevered. He's hung around there and he's playing great footy now. I think for a while there, mate, he was just getting through a lot of work. He was sort of a high-volume guy. We've been saying for a long time, he's got this huge upside to him, which over the last few weeks you've started to see. Mate, he's still 23, 24, or whatever he is.
Still hot too.
Still very hot.
That can't hurt.
Even hotter in his CBA shirt.
Ooh.
We've had the So Hot Right Now segment, guys.
Mate, I thought the other centre too, Jesse Ramian. He ran 153 metres off 12 hit-ups and he only played 65 minutes.
The most underrated centre form-wise this year, in my opinion. I think that him and Sully are a bit similar where they just don't get the appreciation they deserve. I'd have Ramian probably just a step above Sully at the moment. But Ramian, for me, he's arguably having the best year of his career.
Mate, he just hasn't had that game where he scored the second try,
or that
had
moment
the
or
other
whatever.
try assist, or he's just been exceptional in every game without having that real exploding through the ceiling moment that I think people are sort of sleeping on him a little bit. He's putting together a great season.
What was weird, I remember hearing commentators say, the only knock on Jesse Ramian is his inconsistency, and I was like, what? That's one thing he has better than anyone, nearly. Not anyone, but he's been super consistent.
I don't think I've seen him play a bad game.
Yeah, especially since he got back into the Sharkies' first grade side. Because
that was a long time ago, though. Hey?
Yeah, ages ago. That's years ago.
Even that try that he set up in this game, like the fact that he even caught that ball.
Catch.
Yeah, at top speed, that was very impressive.
And was it a flick pass as well? So catch, caught it, ran for about 10 metres. Was it a flick or was it just a hands pass?
I don't think it was a flick. I think it was just hands.
Okay.
But he just straightened up. He got outside his man and, did his job.
Thoughts on the Stone Street no try? I'm confused with the ruling.
Yeah.
I thought the ruling was, and the new ruling that came out this year, as long as you keep in contact no matter what, it's a try.
I don't understand it either. I don't know if there was an interpretation change. I don't know where it's at right now.
Because I feel like it's changed now to the old rule, which was you need downward pressure.
Yeah. I'm not sure where it's at, I'll be honest.
I was surprised. Anyway. So Ito was outstanding. Ramian's outstanding. I think Will Kennedy is an interesting one for me. I think he's actually had a pretty quiet year compared to what we know he can play. And I wonder whether heading into next year, they're going to need him to be at his best if they're to win a premiership. And I think that Craig Fitzgibbon is probably going to need to ask Kennedy heading into finals footy, mate, if we're to make any dent, we probably need... You've been at about a 7.5 out of 10 most games this year. We probably need you at an 8.5 out of 10, which isn't too... it's not to say he's been poor at all, but at the same time, I reckon he's got another gear in him, Kennedy.
I think he's definitely got another gear in
him.
Yeah. What do you reckon they'll do this week? If Trindle's out, do they play Blake Brayley in the half? Do they play Kennedy at 6? What do you reckon they'll do?
So last time that both Trindle obviously, it sounds like it was precautionary taking him off a little bit early, but there was enough tightness there.
Yeah, they're going for scans and they're a bit worried now.
So it sounds like for this week, unlikely. No Nico, obviously. So last time this happened, I believe, was that Melbourne game down there when the Sharks beat them and Atkinson took control. And I think
Brayley played 7.
Brayley played 7. Because did they initially maybe name McInnes? Or maybe they named Brayley there. But
so the yarn was... So Brayley defended out there at 7, but I think they named McInnes there.
Yeah.
And in attack, McInnes just played like a 13, but he didn't really play like a 7.
Few they can do. Like they've got... Jaden Beryl actually played in the halves, at least according to the team list, in New South Wales Cup on the weekend, if they wanted to do that. They've got Peru, also
Yep.
played in the halves New South Wales Cup. I don't know which way they'll go, but
I reckon they go Peru. Give him a crack. I reckon they give him
Been
a
there
crack.
for a few years now.
Yeah, he's been there for a bit. There's probably other clubs interested in him as well, so giving him a crack gives him a bit of like hope that he's actually
I
gonna-
think that the fact that they did it down in Melbourne and beat them, I think they'll just do the same again.
Okay. Hammy, what do you reckon the Sharkies, mate? Oh, we actually already asked you that.
Yeah.
My bad.
That was
My bad. Who stood out for you?
Oh, I think you've just kind of touched. There's no one that really massively stood out to me. It was just a good, like, solid hit out. Nobody really blew it away. I don't know.
Yeah. One of those games, wasn't it?
It's just
Yeah.
one of those games.
Yeah.
I thought
Hero
Teague-
probably the only one that, really
Stood out.
Yeah.
Teague Wilton, good again. 80 minutes, 13 runs, 140 metres, 65 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, 26 tackles, 2 misses. He actually reminds me a little bit of Beau Fermor in regards to Nikora. Probably gets the plaudits, and rightly so. Like, I love Britain Nikora. He's unbelievable. But like Teague Wilton, when you actually like really dive deep and watch the Sharkies games, like he gets through a lot of work, especially in attack. I think you'd actually find that his run meters would almost double Britain Nikora's most weeks. And he had a season-ending injury last year. So, like, the more games under his belt, the best he's going to be. And that's another thing I think the Sharkies deserve a lot of credit for is, like, last year, at this point in the year, we could not stop talking about their left edge defence. Like, it was the only thing we spoke about it. And this year, like, where do you look at in that side and go, there's a glaring problem?
I don't see one.
Like, is it as good as the Melbourne and Panthers? Like, maybe not. But at the same time, I don't look at that side and go, you know what? There are so many holes in this defence. I think, honestly, their biggest question is does Trendle and Hines gel? Like, that's their biggest question in my opinion.
And that's it. Like, 1-17, they're so rock solid. Are they good enough to go to the next level and win a comp? I'm not convinced. But in terms of, like, week to week and where do teams target, I do it all week. We'll do like a bit of punting podcasts and that sort of stuff, and we look at different areas of where to attack. And I get to the Sharks, I never go teams against the Sharks and like try scorers because I don't see a weakness.
Yeah. And that's a testament to what they're building there. I do think, like, right now, I probably don't have them as a premiership threat. Adam Fanor-Blake in this side though.
Yeah.
I start going, oh, not bad. Got to remember they also had Mulatalo out as well. Nico Hines and Mulatalo, 2 key players. Onto the Rabbitohs. Standout for me was obviously Jai Gray. He's ball running. Obviously got a try, 151 metres, 12 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks. And we've used him as an example before, but if you're a young fella and you're small and everyone keeps telling you that you can't play league and you're just not big enough for an NRL, this bloke's literally like 5'6" or something like that. Like nearly a jockey.
There's not much to him. Obviously he was incredible on the weekend. You read out the stat sheet, very impressive. I do wonder where they fit him in next year, how they make it work, because personally I'd be fine a spot if it's
The only
14,
thing
I don't know.
I could think of is, and Jaden Campbell has like opened my eyes. This is, do you go Walker at 7, Gray at 6, Whiten back out to the centres with Campbell as a centre pairing maybe?
No, I've always said I thought Jai Gray is going to be the long-term 5'8" anyway. I kind of think he's still playing out of position, personally.
I think it's a serious. I haven't seen him play in the halves, but what I've seen, everything at fullback is outstanding. Like, they scored 1 try on the weekend, which was an awesome try off the scrum from Gray, but I think you would say 3 line breaks. He's a really good footballer, and I think there's legs in him. So on all reports, he's just as good in the halves, if not better in the halves, as you said, Roo. Maybe he is the 5'8" to him. Their edge defence is pretty poor. You get Jackie White and back out at centre defensively. Big difference there. It's tempting.
And like, Jackie Whiten, he's senior enough to go, all right, Jai, just jump out and attack. Let me take the brunt. Like, let me take the set, take care of the set. Because you got to look at, like, what is the most damaging side that they can have? And you go, okay, well, let's say Jai Gray can play in the 6. Let's say, okay, you don't have Jai Gray on the side, you put Whiten to 6. Then who do you have in the centres next year? You've probably got Campbell Graham on one edge, Tass, if you...
That would be it.
That would be it. And I guess, don't get me wrong, like Tass has done a really good job, but is the team a better team with Walker, Gray, Campbell Graham and Whiten? I'm not sure.
Very good defensive centre pairing. Campbell Graham, Jack Whiten.
Jeez, you're not getting spotted up there. You wouldn't want to frigging run at either of them. Holy shit. And also, by moving Whiten out into the centres, he can take hit-ups coming out of your own end, whereas obviously at 6, you're probably not going to get that. So interesting to have.
I'll tell you, I lean towards Isaiah Tass as well, but man, I reckon Tane Milne has been unreal over the last 2 months. I don't love him at centre either. I just prefer him to come off the bench as sort of through the middle, and he's been getting through a lot of work, Tane. He's been the real unsung hero.
Yeah, a whole season, I just think something's going to happen.
Completely agree with you. Just credit to him. He's been very good recently.
Damien Cook, the great Cookie, 13 runs, 146 metres, 18 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, a line break, 45 tackles, only 1 miss. The great Cookie.
There's your strike centre.
Cookie was awesome, and he's just got his running back into his game.
Yeah.
It's not like that he ever lost it. It's just like there was a directive for him just to distribute and not run as much. But his running's been fantastic, and I do sit there and wonder, like, Mamazulos didn't play in this game, played in Spells Cup on the weekend. I wonder if the season's dead and buried now, do we see that shift where Mamazulos starts playing bigger minutes? Because you got to start looking at next year, don't you?
Well, I think with Cookie, like, I know, he's signed with the Dragons and everything like that, but I'm just not convinced that, like, they've got someone ready to go that's going to be able to fill what Cookie has done. Like, okay, even when Cookie doesn't have a great running game, the work rate he gets through and his defence and like very low missed tackles, like, remember Zealous, very crafty around the ruck, but, first of all, like, can he play 80 minutes each week? And then also, like, there's a part of me that feels like Damien Cook isn't being appreciated enough for what he brings to that Rabbitohs side. I could be wrong, but that's just the feeling I get.
Personally, I think he's been in South's top 3 players this year. Like, I reckon it's going to be a huge, huge loss. I know they got rid of him for salary cap reasons, but like, if you take money out of it, he's a huge, huge loss.
Yeah, and I just think when they look at that spine, like, obviously you've got your Walkers, you've got your Whitens and Trelly Mitt, like, I get all that. But yeah, I do think he's going to be a whole, like, we've seen clubs move hookers on and go and leave to regret it. Like, being like, shit, I think we don't put enough weight in how important a hooker is. And granted, salary cap, I get all that. But yeah, I think that he is going to be a bit of a loss for what he does.
I don't like to repeat myself week in, week out. I think you guys feel the same. But once again, back into the season, whatever concerns you've got about Tallis Duncan, just throw him in there and find out if he can do it or not.
I had it jotted down as well. I'm like, do I bring it up again? I'm like, what? Why are they starting Jacob Host over him? Like, you know what Jacob Host can do. He's been there and done it before. Just give Duncan a crack.
Like, if whatever concern you have with him, let him prove you right or wrong. Let's find out.
And because, like, right now, that you can't win the Rabbitohs 20 points. So, like, you'd basically, the Tigers are on 14 points essentially. You would need to, like, it's impossible, essentially impossible for them to win the Spurs.
It'd be a bed shit, yeah.
Like, they're sending guys for surgery and stuff. Like, let's work out what the team's going to look like next year.
Yeah. And Tallis Duncan, one of the most promising young fellas in the competition. I'm telling you right now, there's nearly 16 other clubs out there that would look at him, and if they said, oh, he's off contract right now and you can get him for minimum, I reckon there'd be 16 other clubs that would find a spot in their top 30 for him.
What is his contract situation? Do you know, Matty? Is he... like?
I'm pretty sure it's still pretty sure November 1, but let me check. Yeah, he can chat weird. At November 1.
Maybe it's a training thing, maybe he's... I don't know, but it's very weird. All right. Okay, on to Panthers defeat the Knights 22-14. This one was, from the Knights' perspective, like the commentators were, and like I've been guilty of this too, but they were like very negative on how conservative the Knights play, and I get that too. I think as a Knights fan, sometimes it would be a little bit frustrating at how conservative they play, but I'll tell you what, it seems to kind of work for the Knights. Like, I think that they need to find their moments and pick their times when they do take a little bit of risk, but 22-14 against a full-strength Penrith side, it's a friggin' great knock.
Yeah, I do. I get where people are coming from. I do think the Newcastle Knights sometimes do lean in a little bit too heavily into that sort of blue-collar sort of, we're just going to hang tough and hang in every contest. But when I have a look at this, I thought that they've got points in them.
I'm more surprised at how quiet KP was yesterday. That's what I'm more surprised at rather than...
Yeah.
I thought they did a really bloody good job to hang in there.
Yeah, for sure. But granted, this game's, against the Panthers, which is tough, but they seem to, like, the last, I'd say 8-10 weeks or whatever it's been, I feel like the Newcastle Knights are just they're just happy to complete sets, turn the ball over, and it's like they're just trying to grind sides out. I'm like, you've got a genuine superstar at fullback, and I just don't feel like he gets enough opportunities in this side.
Do you reckon that's a matter of him not demanding the ball enough? Because like he's a different halves pairing now, and even they, does he need to be more direct? And he's the captain as well. So
I just and maybe it is that, but like if I'm a half playing for the Newcastle Knights, my entire objective is get the ball to fucking KP. When he gets a lot of ball, we win, and I stay in this football team.
But that's what I question. Like, do you like Gamble and Crossland? Like, if KP's calling the ball, he's getting it. I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, if you asked me a week ago, I probably would have agreed with you, Roo, and said, they've got so much attacking and they've got this superstar in Ponga. Like, is that DNA of the Knights to go toe-to-toe and get in the arm wrestle? Mate, they just went to Penrith against not a full-strength Penrith. They're missing a few key players, but a very strong outfit. And they were in this game. It took a moment of magic from arguably the best player in the world, Nathan Cleary, an unbelievable try to break the deadlock. I thought the Knights were terrific in this game, and I didn't think there was a team in the competition, let alone the Knights, who could go to Penrith and try and out-wrestle the Panthers, and they almost did it. I thought it was a tremendous performance from them.
So the Panthers were missing Fisher Harris, obviously, Dylan Edwards, Dane Laurie, but Dylan Edwards is the main one you're missing there. And I thought Iongi was fucking bloody good. Outside of that, so they got Scott Scottish, William Rutten, pretty much full strength outside of that.
Pretty well.
And I agree with you against Penrith, but they play the same brand of footy against everyone. And there's plenty of teams in this competition that I personally believe the Newcastle Knights have the attack to be absolutely blitzing.
Well, you can have that style of footy and get in the arm wrestle and do all that, and you can still give Caitlin Ponga more ball, can't you? You can do both.
And so that's where I said, like as I said earlier, although it's a grindy type of footy, and I know fans would get a bit frustrated with it, they can just find just a little bit of balance with getting KP the ball in good positions, then I think I do believe that they need to lean into their DNA as a grindy footy side. But at the same time, if they could just find the right balance, and that's where I have to ask, like with the KP situation, is like I can't imagine Crossland or Gamble not getting KP the ball if he was calling for it. And I just think that maybe KP needed to just inject himself a little bit more in the game yesterday.
Well, there was for me in this game, there was genuinely one opportunity he got where he got good ball, and he took him on down the right edge and created something straight away.
So you reckon it's more a matter of the halves just not getting him? Do you reckon he's calling for it enough?
I don't know. I just think whoever it is, they need to sort it out. It needs to, like, KP's touches of the football need to be way higher than they are.
Don't you think, as a captain, that's his responsibility to force that?
Yeah. And as I said, maybe it is KP not doing that. I don't know if it's the halves not giving it. I would assume as well, mate, that if it's Tyson Gamble and Phoenix, they're trying to get the ball to him. But I'm also, when I watch them, I'm not sure if they are.
Do you think match fitness has maybe been a problem with Ponga at stages this year? Like, I know he's 3 80-minute games back plus the short origin stint, but does he look fit enough to be commanding ball frequently and being the main guy in attacks, set in, set out? Might be fine, but I do question fitness at times.
Yeah, that could be something. Match fitness. He's really only played, like, how many games has he played this year? Could you check, please?
So he got injured round 7, came back in round 18. He played round 18, 20, had the bye.
About 10 games?
Round 22. All up 10 games, yeah. So
he's played, 3 games if you include Origin in 3 months or whatever.
See, I look at it more as I feel like KP should be demanding the ball more. And if he's not demanding the ball more, then that's a problem. Like if he is demanding the ball and he's not getting it, that's a massive problem. Like the fact that Crossland and Gamble are going, nah, you're not getting the ball, like that's craziness to me. I do think it's his responsibility to force his way into the game rather than the halves fault, who are both essentially like, Crossland's a fringe half. Obviously, he's a first grader, but he's more of a 9 at the moment, and Gamble's a fringy. I think the responsibility lies in KP's hands to make sure he gets the ball.
And you know what? Even thinking back to like the last 2 games he played before this, when Hastings was playing halfback down that edge, and he would consistently go to KP's ball. Like thinking back to it, like I never remember seeing Caitlin Ponga blowing up or filthy. He's not getting the ball.
It's weird. Like he had 42 receipts, which is his second most of the season. But I felt the same watching. I'm like, it didn't feel like maybe it was in key attacking positions or whatnot, but the touches were there, but didn't feel like the impact was there. Again, it's the Penrith Panthers we're talking about. Maybe we're not factoring that in as much. Like everyone looks quiet against Penrith.
So he had 19 runs, which were the most for his team, but I think like during his Dally M run, he'd be up around the 25, 26 runs a game kind of mark. Anyway, look, I feel like we're being too harsh here because like the Knights they won 22-14. I think we're more rather than focusing in on this performance and going, KP could have demanded more. It's more looking at if this team is to make a push into finals footy, if KP could just get the ball a little bit more, whether it's the halves that need to get it to him or whether it's him, I think that almost changes everything because I actually don't mind the foundation of this gritty side that is willing to just grind, and then if they just get the ball in KP's hands at the right time, he's going to get points nearly every time. Because, I thought it was a bloody good performance by the Knights. I really did. Especially, like, some of their outside backs. Like, Dan Gagai, 161 metres. Dylan Lucas, 178. Greg Marju, 192, 94 post contact. Like, that's no small feat against a Panthers side.
Without going around in circles, the other thing that I can't really grasp is the Newcastle Knights. Like, Bradman Best has missed a couple of games the last few weeks, and they've played Dylan Lucas there, who for me now is an out-and-out back rower. And before that, it was Thomas Cant that they plucked there as well. I wish they'd just pick one of their outside backs they've got in reserve grade, whether it's chucking a Will Price there or a Tom Jenkins or someone, or Mapalangi wasn't in this game either. I'd love to see them just get a genuine left centre out there.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like, with Dylan Lucas, like, he's going to give you a bloody good performance there. And also the replacement you have on the edges is Frizzell and Kai Pearce-Paul. So when I look at it, I go, okay, what would I rather? A starting side that has Lucas, Kai Pearce-Paul and Frizzell in it, or Thomas Cant and maybe Kai Pearce-Paul and Frizzell? I think I kind of understand where Adam O'Brien's coming from with that selection, to be honest.
I just think it limits them so much. But
you don't reckon Lucas plays well at centre?
Well, their left side attack is it goes to shambles when he's out. He's a good player, mate, and the stats read well. Like I like him as a footballer, but at left centre, when you're looking at when they were humming last year, it was that left side that was absolutely ruining sides, and they just don't really generate anything out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like if you put a rookie there, it's a tough art. Like I think Dylan Lucas does a good job there, and that's probably all you're gonna want to ask in that situation. Whereas I don't think a rookie's going to go there and. Well, put it this way: I haven't seen any of their rookies play well enough to leapfrog Dylan Lucas there. Even if Dylan Lucas isn't going to create as many points, at the very least, he's going to give you 170 metres, 90 post contact. He's going to tackle his ass off. But I see what you're saying in regards to flair and all that kind of stuff with a rookie that's like an out.
You also never get to see any of these young guys because they're consistently picking back rowers out there.
We've seen some of the boys on the wing, haven't we? Kant's played seen a few of the boys play first grade this year. The young fellas on the wing and in fullback, haven't we?
Yeah, but like Thomas Cant is an out and out back rower, and they've plucked him to play left centre against Ruben Garrick and those Manly boys.
So
Mapapa
Lungi's played there. He hasn't played that well. Who else would you put there?
You've got Fletcher Sharp, who came into the side here, but you've also got Tom Jenkins, who came up from the Penrith Panthers. I mean, you've got Will Price there, who I'd be happy to give him a crack.
Jenkins played as well. He didn't I don't think they've played well enough to. Yeah, I mean, I'd just select Dylan Lucas. I think he's played better there at centre than they have when they've had their opportunities.
Just think it really limits their attack. It's the best attacking left edge in rugby league last 2 years, and they're not really generating anything out there.
Yeah, they haven't generated anything all bloody year, to be honest. Compared to last year, they've been. It's hard to say too because you've got Tyson Gamble and Phoenix Crossan. I don't understand this Phoenix Crossan situation. What the fuck,
mate? Phoenix Crossan was such a good halfback coming through the grades, and Newcastle did everything they possibly could to turn him into a lock and then a hooker. And now and then back to a season on the line, it's back to halfback. I just bizarre.
Doesn't make any sense. But as we said, like
especially when Jack Cogger's sitting on the bench,
mate. It's hard to be critical of the Knights because they went and played so well against Penrith. But I've got to say, like their recruitment and that. I know it's actually changed recently with O'Sullivan is there now, correct?
Yep.
O'Sullivan's there now. So I know it's changed recently, but geez, their recruitment over the last few years has been so bizarre. Like the fact that, I mean, we've been through it ad nauseum, but your Lockie Milliers trading for a young front rower, and KP was going to play 6, but then he plays 1. Phoenix Crossland, he's a 9, he's a lock, he's a 9, he's a lock. Now he's a 7. Recruitment of Cogger, even though you had Hastings and Gamble. Gamble gets the fact that Gamble's back in anyway, it all just doesn't make any sense to me. But it's hard to be critical after they literally just only lost 22 to 14. In regards to good performances, I thought Adam and Elliott ripped and teared at 13. I thought Daniel Saifidi, probably the best game of the season for him.
He was up for that one.
Yeah, well, to go to Penrith and tussle with their big boys through the middle, someone had to step up, and I thought it was Saifidi. We had him in our team of the week, scored a really nice try, ran for 158 metres. Like, you see the absolute best props in the game. You see a Payne Haskell play down in Penrith and run for 120, 130 metres. Really big game from Saifidi, and they needed it from him.
And so it's Daniel that they've said basically apparently tapped on the shoulder. Now, Brayley has come out and said he hasn't heard anything about this report, so just shows you how unfair it can be on players at times when you're seeing all these headlines about being tapped on the shoulder. But anyway, there's reports that certain players are being tapped on shoulders. Do you think this is a Saifidi that's like, yeah, all right, if you tap me on the shoulder, I'm auditioning to go somewhere else?
I don't know. Saifidi's so up and down across his career. When he's on. He's one of the best front rowers in the game. But week to week, we probably don't see it. So if he has been tapped on the shoulder and now he decides, okay, I've got to play for a contract again, I'll turn it on. I hate that. I'm not saying that's the situation, but
this performance did seem to come out of nowhere with Daniel Saifidi because it was incredible.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can keep, because if they are to make a push, they need Saifidi to do what he did this week, which is fucking phenomenal. And we know he can do it. Absolutely, we know. He's done it in literally Origin. He played incredibly when he played Origin.
He's only 28 as well.
Plenty of time.
Few clubs are looking for some front rowers.
Big boppers.
After the last week or two. Come on down, Daniel. Love to have you.
Leo Thompson got through a bunch of work too, which was good. Good to see him back on the field playing some good footy. Because he was injured for a little bit there. He's been back for a few weeks now. Could you please check for us, Matty? I've got to say, I probably thought he was going to take a bigger step this year. I think he hasn't taken as big a step as I thought he was going to, but he was good. In regards to the Panthers, anything else in the Knights, boys?
No.
In regards to the Panthers, look, I thought the Iongi at the back there, 26 runs, 256 metres, 83 post contact, 8 tackle breaks, 3 tackles, 0 misses. Look, yes, he had a few errors here or there, but geez, there's a bloody good player there. 21 years old, I think. Oh man, I can't wait to see him play some more first grade down the line.
Yeah, you could have worse third-string fullbacks in your side. Their depth is just incredible. And he's obviously been hyped up for quite some time, and it's always good to see kids like him actually come into first grade and deliver on what's been said. Like, I remember you did a reaction to him.
Yeah.
That almost was like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, yeah.
How's it going into next year? Like, I don't know if anyone's moving on, but they'll have Iongi there, Dane Laurie, who's been outstanding. They'll have another fullback there.
Edwards.
Both McLean brothers.
The McLean brothers. Even like in the halves, I've had Jack Cole and Brad Schneider, who have filled in. All these different options.
Blaze Talangi potentially.
Blaze Talangi, if he comes in. How's the depth there?
Crazy. It's incredible.
Yeah, just on Thompson, he's missed 1 or 2 games here and there a couple of times in the last 3 months. So he's
been in and out. Okay.
In and out.
I thought it was Taruva and Tungo's best game in a long time.
Yep.
I genuinely thought it was their best game in a long time.
They switched the wingers' edges again.
Yeah.
Taruva and Toto. The only sense I can make of it is that Tungo edge had been battling defensively, so they've decided to change it up there. Every chance it was. Because
Taruva and Tungo defensively got found out
heaps.
A lot.
So that has to be it.
Toto doesn't get enough credit for his defensive reads, man. Like, he seriously, defensively, is almost immaculate.
Because, and Tungo had been struggling defensively this season, really uncharacteristic. They've just gone, let's put Toto there next to him. And
Toto, 207 metres, 107 post-contact. 4 tackle breaks, a line break. And that's with just 4 tackle breaks. Like, that's low for Toto. That's just all just truck and nut. Incredible. But yeah, Taruva and Tungo, the good thing for the Panthers is these guys that have been quiet all year long, not Toto, the other boys, all of a sudden starting to find a bit of form. Fuck.
Well, that minor premiership race becomes interesting as well now, doesn't it? You sort of sat there and went, the Storm have got this wrapped up. They can't really lose it from here. Then the upset to the Dragons, Penrith, that little, or more than a little sniff. They play each other in a few weeks. If they win it, they're level on points.
Well, Penrith are $1.70 favourites now for the minor premiership. So,
And they play each other in how many weeks?
In the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Basically could be for the premiership, minor premiership.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Oh, that game will be nuts.
Yeah, so round next week.
Geez, I tell you what, it's, don't get me wrong, it's a big game for Penrith, but it is almost season defining for the Storm because, there is an argument to say they're still like a little bit of a tier below Penrith, and this will be a good measuring stick for the Storm to say, are you genuinely on Penrith's level? We know you're super consistent, we know you're minor premierships, and we know you beat the Roosters, but a Penrith Panthers coming into finals footy, hitting form, that's the yardstick.
It'll be Thursday night in Penrith.
That's
Not
next
this
week?
Not this week. Next week. Yeah.
Will Dillard Woods be back for that yet?
I think he was slated for about round 24, yeah, so they might have... Because they said they're not going to rush him because they don't need to, but they might just...
Probably don't want to show their full hand there, hey? Give him another week off.
I thought, Cleary, game's on the line, need a try, runs like a front rower and bumps 3 blokes and scores.
Yeah, you hate to do it, but they said it in commentary, and it was just the Joey Johns comparison. That was as Joey Johns as it gets, where they were struggling to make inroads, the Panthers, and the Knights' defence was holding up. Cleary just put him on his back and muscled his way to the try line. That was as Joey Johns as I've ever seen from him.
He ran for 180 metres. Friggin' 7.
Yeah.
And just when the moment came, he just...
It's the third week in a row.
Yeah, I'll just win this game of football now.
Comes back, 2-point field goal to win it. Then last week...
did everything
Just
himself.
scored 3 tries and kicked 19 goals.
Did everything. And then this week, they're not playing as well as you would have hoped, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And almost getting dominated to a degree in the forwards. And he just goes, all right, boys, I'm just going to run the ball myself, bump 3 blokes. And it just...
There was nothing on.
Nothing. It was just it was a front rowers run.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's so good to watch. Look, the Penny Panthers looking great. Depth's incredible. The fact that their third string fullback is coming in and playing like that. And what I love so much about these Penrith juniors is some of the other juniors that come in, we go, oh, he's a rookie, so he'll round out his game. A lot of these Penrith juniors come in, they're already pretty rounded out.
What about Casey McLean? Defensively, he's been tremendous so far. He's 19 years old. He's running for 150 plus metres week in, week out.
175 on the weekend, 68 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, a line break, 19 tackles, only 2 misses, which is bloody good for a centre.
I only came up with a try saver on Fletcher Sharp with about 6 minutes to go. They were up 6. And Sharp looked in for all money, and I just whacked him and went, nah, sorry, mate.
And that's the scary thing about this Penrith side is, if anything, their depth's getting better each year. They could have multiple injuries to key positions and still be fine. For example, if Edwards, obviously you want Edwards there, but if Edwards isn't there, Dane Laurie has been outstanding at fullback. You're going to lose a little bit, but not that much. That's how much depth they have.
Fullbacks and halves, they're absolutely covered.
Yeah.
Who's the backup hooker to Kenny if Kenny were to go down?
Would it be Sonny?
Probably Sonny.
Well, I'm convinced Kenny could have a fucking broken leg and he'll still play. I thought Liam Martin had one of his better games. The Penrith Panthers, what's weird about Liam is through the season, if you took away his name and the fact that he's playing for Penrith, he actually, you could be he's a middle of the road back rower, and then he gets around Origin time and finals footy, and he just turns it up another level.
Yeah.
I reckon if you were the back rower or the half against him each week, it would just be a fucking nightmare, though.
Oh, he'd be in ya.
What about the old back rower sidestep he put on KP?
Oh. Fuck, fair play to KP for standing his ground there.
Yeah, it was great.
That was great stuff. Great stuff. Isaiah Yeo, what is there to say? He's fucking unbelievable. So obviously Penrith didn't play as good as we know they can, but they still got the win, and that's the sign of the great teams is not playing as well as you usually do, and also the team you're playing is playing some of the best footy, and they still managed to get the win. Okay.
They put Somerton there more recently.
Oh, okay.
Luke Somerton.
Okay. Last game of the round. Bulldogs defeat the Raiders 20-18. And this was actually probably my match of the round. I love this game. It was at, incredible crowd. Fuck. How good is it to see the doggies, going well and just the atmosphere at the ground. Raiders, just so typical, looking for an ambush, everyone counting them out. And it actually, turned out to be probably my match of the round. I loved it. I thought it was outstanding. And there were so many little things that the Bulldogs do these days that it's a pleasure to watch. Like, for example, the Raiders' first set was 12 metres. They made 12 metres. The Bulldogs then get the ball back to the Raiders' 40-metre line on their third tackle. On the third tackle, they get a set restart. The Bulldogs then got an attacking kick. And, like, these are all little things that they're not on the highlight reel. You know, you don't necessarily need Joey Johns in your 7 jersey to make crazy things happen. Like, these are purely using your defence to give you field position and to win field position, like to get field position and have an opportunity to score points. Like there are so many different moments. Incredible kick from Fogarty. It looks like it's a 40-20. Absolutely no doubting it's happening. And then Kiraz, pure desperation, knocks the ball back inside. And there's Raiders players around the ball, but Connor Tracy, pure desperation, gets it. He gets dragged out. Kiraz resets, gets back to jump on the ball, and then the next tackle, the Raiders give a penalty away. All that that's not skill. That's not blokes on $1 million. That is pure desperation, the most honest way you can play rugby league. And that's why the Bulldogs are at where they're at. That is why, even their match-winning try, Critter came from the other side of the field to go for the bomb to eventually set up for the try assist. This is all just hard work, just hard yakka. Incredible win from the Bulldogs.
I noticed on social media yesterday, the doggies, I think they were at the Leagues Club, and they walked down with the crowd through the streets to arrive at the stadium, which is unreal. But I noticed that on the back of their like player edition polos and stuff they're wearing, they've got on the back club first, team second, individual third.
Love that.
Doesn't that just sum up like honestly, yesterday's game and all the stuff you just mentioned, mate? I'm like, that's Canterbury. I'm used to that now.
Yeah.
They've just set such a high standard for themselves. It's been incredible to watch.
Yeah, it's just... And, like, this is what they're doing. Like, this is the vibe we're getting, and they're not even in the top 4 yet. Imagine if they ever, if they get to a prelim, it'll be some of the craziest scenes we've ever seen. Like, it'll be like the Wars almost last year. Probably not on that level because that was like a whole country, but bloody hell.
I remember the scenes back in 2009 when the Doggies played the Eels in the prelim final, and it was just a sea of blue and yellow both sides. It was one of the great spectacles in rugby league, that prelim final. And looking out onto the weekend at Belmore, it was just a victory for rugby league. Like, it was, I tinkered with the idea of going out there, and I was thinking about it, then I won't bother. What an afternoon it was out there. It was the crowd going bonkers. The weather was beautiful. It was such a high-quality game of footy as well, with both teams with heaps on the line. They both completed at 85%. It was a contest the entire time. Stephen Crichton putting on a masterful performance, and the crowd jammed up to him. It was Josh Papali'i's 300th game, one of the war horses of the competition. They put on a great show for him as well. Mate, really enjoyable game of rugby league.
How good was Tarpano?
Oh, mate, he loves it. He loves it. And you knew he was coming out for a big one because he was playing for Papali'i's 300th, which we'll get to. But, yeah, we'll speak about Doggies first, and then we'll get to the Raiders. Just, what a win. And we've already spoken about him, but, Critter, talk about one of the buys of the season. He might go down. We're getting ahead of ourselves for sure. But if they do keep on this trajectory, he might go down as one of the best buys ever by a club.
Future immortal.
There you go.
I can't wait to hear your hot takes, boys.
You know what? I respect the fuck out of it because it's hot. It is hot. It's spicy. I respect it. And you know what? There's merit to it. There is absolutely merit to it.
Bit of Nathan Merritt.
With Critter, we have to remember this is a club that hasn't played finals footy since 2014. 14?
Yeah, 14, I reckon.
Yeah, that seems right.
Maybe 15.
16. We're talking years and years and years, and they've just been bottom 4. Or essentially bottom 4 for however many years. And it just looked like a basket case club that was going nowhere. And even last year, they get Serraldo in. He makes some really, really tough calls. But even last year, it was just dire straits. And we're all sitting here going, oh, my God. All the praises are going to Webster. Serraldo, was he the one that's not going to, kick on? And now all of a sudden, Serraldo's are basically $1.01 to win Coach of the Year. And a lot of that has to do with Stephen Crichton.
2016.
I mean, he's got to win Captain of the Year. So what was it?
Sorry, 2016.
2016. So what's that? 17,
years.
18, 19, 18?
Two Olympiads.
And, Stephen Crichton, he's got to get Captain, Dalian Captain of the Year, surely.
Without a doubt. Mate, like, his involvements yesterday, like that first try he scored, what was it, Seb Chris, and then who's on that wing? Is that Rapana's wing?
Left
side?
Was, Savage on left.
Savage. Like, just when he got the ball, there really wasn't anything on. Like, he bumped off Seb Chris like he was 70 kilos.
And Rapana as well, who is notoriously strong as shit in contact.
And then the try after that, he got the ball on the wing and he put in a left foot kick around the inside of the winger, ran around the outside and got it back. And then, for me, my favourite one, he's the right centre. He caught the bomb on the left-hand side of the sticks to find Josh Adokar.
Yeah.
I did the exact same. It was just 3 moments of magic, and they were with 3 completely different skills of a rugby league player.
Yeah. And like, so he's already had those two big moments. Very easy for him to go, look, I've done all I can for this win. Like, it's up to someone else to do something here. He goes, nah, I'm going to come across from the other side of the field, tell my half to bomb it, and I'm going to make sure that I execute that play to win the match for my team. It is just, like, the reported figure was on 650, 700K. Most unders ever at the moment. Jesus.
Isn't he amazing how, like, he can score these tries and have these big moments and he's screaming and yelling, and then 40 seconds later he is the most composed one back on halfway talking to them. Like, the way that he just goes to whatever level he needs to, whichever moment, I find it incredible. And he's 23.
23 years old. Just, so impressive, so impressive. And he even made, like, an error here, a couple errors. His ability just to stay in the game, doesn't let that dint his confidence. Just amazing stuff. Like, he was incredible. Who else stood out for you boys for the doggies?
Bronson Cherry for me.
Yep.
Discussed at length. Potentially quite unlucky to miss out on the team of the week, but
Cherry on top.
Yeah, correct. Well played. He just popped up everywhere. 200 metres, 210 run metres. I just thought he's been, obviously Stephen Crichton's going to go down as their buy of the year, but like, he's just slipped back in seamlessly. It's like he hasn't even missed a beat since he had his last crack at NRL. But I thought he was super impressive yesterday.
All things considered with him, I thought he would have been a walking storyline all year.
Yeah.
But just with everything going on at Canterbury, it's like it's a non-event.
I've actually been quite surprised at, I thought, because he got done for performance-enhancing drugs, like, I thought that we'd see a dip in his ability on the field, because I'm like, well, why are you taking it? If you naturally can play this well, why are you taking it? Which, look, I don't know why he took it, but I assume it was for an injury, because, like, why, when you're this good naturally, we assume, like, why would you even bother? Maybe he's lost a metre or two of pace, but that might be because of his size now.
He's put on a lot of weight.
That'll be the Pilates.
I had him in my team of the week. What an incredible, as you said, Guru, I can't believe it hasn't been talked about more this season. Like, he didn't play footy for 4 years. He walks back into the NRL.
Couldn't play anything.
No.
Wasn't allowed to play anything.
Yeah, walks back into the NRL, and he's been nothing short of sensational. Like, defensively, he hasn't missed a beat all season. He wouldn't have tackled a bloke in 4 years.
And he didn't even start the year in first grade either. He had to work his way into it.
Yeah.
Such a good story. And the good thing for the doggies is because they threw him a lifeline, he'll probably take unders for his next contract. So they can go, yep, we threw your lifeline, mate, take an unders here for the next year or two, and then obviously you can get your market value. But just an amazing story all around the doggies. And, we know how passionate their fan base is. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in finals footy. I just want to give a massive, we can focus on Critter for sure. He deserves all the praises that he gets. But just guys like Reid Marnie, guys like Josh Adokar, these are players that genuinely signed with that club under the impression that they wanted to be part of the rebuild. And we're seeing the fruits of their labour as well. Like, yes, you can look at the point in which they really did change was Serraldo and obviously Critter arriving. But, who's to say guys like Kickow sign with the club if Josh Adokar and all those boys do? Because I'm pretty sure it went Fox, Marnie, Kickow, Burton, Critter, pretty sure, that order.
Pretty sure Fox was the turning
one of the
point,
first,
wasn't he?
yeah. And like, for example, Fox went from bloody the cream of the crop to the Bulldogs, and we're starting to see some dividends from that. And so I think they deserve a massive rap for that, those boys.
I thought Kikau was tremendous. I know he almost had a try-scoring moment, and we'll get to it soon, where KO Weeks came up with a huge play, but I thought Viliame Kikau, just the aggression he played with yesterday, when he's on, he's just so hard to handle.
Mate, seriously, we talked about other people like worrying about their opponent. There's one bloke that you literally have nightmares going, I've got to mark Viliame Kikau. Like, he's like Ola Kawatu, where they just steamroll blokes. And you can try and put your body in line. You can try and get in front. Like, even the KO Weeks try saver, bloody injured himself. Like, he was down for 5 minutes after that. He genuinely had to put his body on the line just to pull that off. And what I love about the kick-out situation is I don't think we've gotten anywhere close to where we know he can get to. Like, we're talking about a guy that, at his best, wins Dally and back row nearly every year. If he can continue, going up in this trajectory, and we get around finals footy, he genuinely might be the special player that can pull off an upset win against a top four side because he's that good.
Tell you who else has been a great little find, this Harry Hayes. Yeah, he played 44 minutes. He ran for 100 metres, and I think he had like 30-odd tackles. Yeah, 26 tackles, 0 missed. He might have the thickest neck of all time.
He's a beast, Harry Hayes.
Yeah, bloody oath. Great name too, Harry Hayes. If you're into your vapes, that'd be a good vape name. I don't know. You wouldn't buy a Harry Hayes? I would. I don't even vape, and I would.
Great name.
Oh,
Great
my
name.
God.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, hey?
That could be the tagline. Where there's smoke, there's fire, baby. Jacob Preston, another great game. Toby Sexton for me, though. I know I spoke about this, a couple of weeks ago, but people talking about, we need a new half. Do you really, though? Sexton's been incredible this year, and he's 23 years old. Plenty of time to continue to work on his game and get better and better.
Yeah, and you've got him that's doing a job. You're going to have Mitch Woods that's going to put pressure on him over the next few years, and I think it'll be a healthy little battle, those two.
Yeah, outstanding. Kiraz, once again, 21 runs, 171 metres, 34 post contact, a tackle break. 5 offloads, Kiraz. 5 offloads. It's amazing.
Done.
I reckon the boys are about to pass out, so we'll get to the Raiders.
Run out of steam.
Raiders, what an effort from the Raiders. Like, they are such a pleasure to watch, especially because you know how hard it is to do what they're doing. You appreciate it even more. Like, you look at some of these other teams where they've got this great side on paper, but they're struggling. You look at the Raiders where they're almost in the middle of a rebuild as it is. Like, they're almost in the middle of a transition phase, and that they just continue to turn up against all odds and almost, do one of the best upsets of the year against the Doggies that are absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, they just, as you said, mate, very, very proud to support watching performances like that, where it came in as like sort of not major, but underdogs in the game, and there's nothing but ticker, was it?
Yeah.
They got up for Big Josh Papali'i's 300, didn't quite get there, but as I said, everything from high completions to line speed to one-on-one defence. It was a really good performance. Unfortunately, couldn't come away with the 2 points, but for that road trip to Belmore against one of the informed teams in the competition, the Bulldogs, with that crowd going at you, it was a big performance.
3 things for me in this one. The KO Weeks tackle on Viliame Kikau. That was enormous. And just on half-time, Tommy Starling was in the scrum at lock. Stephen Crichton kicks for the corner, and he sprints from lock to the corner to knock that ball out.
Yep.
Huge effort play and
Tarpany,
monster.
Like, the respect he must have for Papali'i to go out and play like that in his 300th game.
So what else I'd love to see as well, and I hope the stats back it up. Thankfully they do. Offloading the football. You're going to take on teams like Canterbury that defensively are good. You have to make them uncomfortable, and that's how the Canberra Raiders can do it.
Yeah.
Did we get any word on what's going on with Ethan Strange?
Yeah, I was wondering that as well.
Yeah, Ricky Stewart came out and said that he'd had a conversation with him it was just that long season, rookie player. He said, mate, at some point in the next month or whatever, I want to give you a week off and just freshen up. Let us know when it was. For whatever reason, it was this weekend, and they just sat him out for 1 week. But he said expecting him back.
Good coaching. Good coaching.
I like it.
It's a long year, man. And I get the Raiders are still in the running to make the 8. But Ricky, from what I like about what Ricky has done this year is that, like, one thing that frustrates me the most is a club gets halfway through the season and they go, oh, well, we're actually transitioning, we're actually rebuilding, we're getting some young boys in. What I like from Ricky Stewart is at the start of the year, he was open as he could be, like, couldn't be more open by saying, we got some really young guys and one of our top priorities is to develop them for the future in the next few years. And what I love is the season is on the line and he's sticking to that plan. When a guy like Strange is getting towards the back end of the year, you can tell he's getting a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued, and he rests him. Like, that's smart, long-term thinking.
And, mate, we're still in the hunt for finals football. It's on a knife's edge, and what have we got? 5 rounds to go. And I think they sent him home for a few days, fresh the head up, come back. He'll be fit, fine, ready to go for those last 5 weeks because he's had a week off. Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think it's super smart. I know, like, fans be like, oh, it's your job, and I get all that, but you got to understand, as a rookie, that first year, it feels like forever. You are so banged up. It's so hard mentally, like the energy, the highs and lows. And so it's really smart coaching from Ricky Stewart. And gives guys like Kale Wicks, I know he's playing fullback now, but, you know, like, gives guys like him to have more game time because you might have to move certain other players around. Because I think Kale Wicks, putting him at fullback, super smart going forward, because let's say Chevy Stewart does develop into the fullback that we hope he does, and maybe he gets that spot. The good thing about Kale Weeks, it just gives him another spot in another position, and maybe you can carry Kale Weeks as a 14 next year that can cover fucking anywhere, or at the very least, you've got a really good backup fullback. And what I love about the Kale Weeks story is like, look, I don't know KO at all, but I reckon the KO that I saw play at Manly is not putting his body on the line the way he did at the Raiders. And I think that KO deserves a massive rap for how far he's come as a player under Ricky Stewart, because that was as brave. You don't get much braver than that. Like, tell me other players that are as big and as scary to tackle one-on-one as Viliami Kikau. And he put his body on the line in front. And that's what I love about, like, going with KO Weeks' future is, like, we've always known that the skill's there with KO, but it's just all the little things kind of rounding out of his game. And I think he's been great since going to fullback, and he's really fitting the Raiders culture.
Shout out to KO.
Shout out. All out games. Live and ad break during play.
I think Savage is a reasonably similar storyline too. Like, there was parts of last year I was just pulling my hair out with Savage, but he's toughened up a lot too, I think.
Well, I think he even said it publicly, Ricky Stewart, where, like, they thought he was gone. Savage, they thought he was heading back up home or going somewhere else, and I think Ricky Stewart had a conversation with Savage's family, and they discussed it, and Ricky got a bit of a better understanding about who Savage was as a person, and that really clicked things into focus for both of them. And granted, like, still rough around the edges, but I think Savage has come leaps and bounds further along in his career than he was 12 months ago.
He has. He didn't have his best game on the weekend. There was a pretty poor defensive effort, I think, on one of the Fox tries, and there was another one he should have gone to ground. He got taken out. Not his best on the weekend, but yes, season-wise, leaped and bounced 12 months ago and where he's at.
And I think that, like, a guy like Savage, you know, you don't want to lose a guy as physically gifted as him to the game, because, like, put it this way, I reckon there's a lot of people that I know that he had some errors in the game on the weekend. But if you watch Savage play, you know, a round or two ago, and you compared him to the player that played, you know, 16, 18 months ago, they're two. One's a boy, in my opinion, and one's getting close to being a man. And, like, he's still 21 years old, 22 years old. And again, Savage deserves a lot of raps. Like clubs like the Raiders are not easy clubs to be at. It's a tough culture. And so if you can survive that culture, you deserve praise. And I think Savage, although still, as I said, there's still areas he needs to clean up, he's progressed massively over the last couple of years. Like, this is a guy that couldn't get a start at all last year, at all. This is also a guy that a year before that, he was the next superstar. Like, that's hard for a young man to get through, and he's getting through it. So Raiders were outstanding. Tarpany outstanding. I thought Morgan Smithies had one of his better games as well for the Raiders.
I think it was his best game he's had this year.
Yep.
I thought he was really good. Mate, NRL physio posted this morning. Zach Hosking re-injured his shoulder last night. Previously ruled him out for 3 months earlier in the season. Surgery often required after shoulder dislocations, but can be delayed till off-season in some cases. That was the aim for Hosking, potentially season over.
Damn.
Devastating.
That sucks.
Future Bloat FC immortal.
Absolutely. Tommy Starling. I'm loving more minutes at 9, man.
That's not bad for me.
Tommy Starling, I'm loving more minutes. Him at 9. I reckon give him an opportunity. Just keep him there. Keep him there. I think he could grow into a starting hooker that plays, your 60, 70 minutes, 80 if you need him to, but I think he's getting better and better each week this year.
The minutes have just come out of nowhere, where after a few years of just being this impact number 9 off the bench, started to play 70 to 80 minutes, and you've always touched on it before, but he was tremendous on the weekend. He just offers more of a threat around the ruck for us, which in Danny Levi or Zach Wolford, we just don't really have, and we need it because we don't have the most creative side with X Factor in the comp to offer that running threat around the ruck. I think he's perfect for us starting.
Yeah, so all in all, as I said, there's a lot of really good stories out of the Raiders, and you got your Savage. I know he's still rough around the edges, but he's progressed. Kaya Weeks has progressed. Then you've got Strong, who's also a rookie. He's getting better each week. You've got even the Chevy Stewart story, who probably a bit early for first grade, but he came in. You compare his under-19s New South Wales game last year to this year, heaps of progress. So all these younger guys, I think Ricky Stewart's doing a bloody good job with them. There's still a ways to go, but they're getting better. Alrighty, time for your tips. Face the music, brought to you by our friends at Sportsbet.
All right. Thursday night footy, Souths, $5.10, host the Storm, $1.17, 14.5 is the line, Thursday night footy.
Okay, Thursday night footy.
Added a core.
14.5 is the line, did you say?
Correct. Storm off a
Probably
loss.
no Cody Walker.
Fired up Craig Bellamy.
I'll go Storm.
Storm.
Storm for me as well. Friday night, we've got the Titans. $1.79 host the Sharks, $2.07. Remarkable. 11th on the ladder, takes on 4th on the ladder. 11th is the favourite. The line's 1.5 points.
Titans, and we'll just do 1 to 12.
Like it, yep.
Yeah.
Titans 1 to 12.
Yeah, I'll go Titans 1 to 12.
Titans 1 to 12.
Titans 13 plus.
Jeez, Titans 1 to 12 for me. Parramatta 5.80 host the Panthers, $1.14. Another big line here for Penrith. 16.5 points.
Panthers, Eels.
Yep.
What is it, 15?
16.5.
So big.
Yeah, Panthers, Eels.
I'll go Panthers.
Panthers, Eels.
Panthers, Eels for me as well. Raiders, this is Super Saturday, host the Seagulls. Raiders 2.26, Manly $1.64, 3.5 the line. What a game.
It's a tough one.
That is tough.
Manly.
Manly.
Manly, Raiders for me. North Queensland, $1.45 host Brisbane, 2.76, 6.5 the line. Up in North Queensland.
Broncos with the start.
I'll go Cows.
Cows. Broncos are gone.
Cows, Bronx.
Cows.
Unnecessary, mate. Unnecessary. Very unnecessary.
Fatty Williams over there. Dargans, 2.28 host the Dogs, $1.63, 3.5 the line at Cogra.
Doggies.
Dogs, Dragons.
Dogs.
Dogs, Dragons for me as well. Dolphins, $1.40 host the Wars, $2.97, 7.5 is the line at Suncorp on Sunday.
Oh, this is a tough one. You know what? Warriors for the upset.
Warriors for the upset.
Ooh.
Dolphins.
I'll go Dolphins to win, Wires to cover.
Dolphins.
Dolphins for me. And game of the round at night, $1.28. Tigers, $3.70. 10.5 is the line up in Newcastle.
Knights, Tigers.
Knights.
Nice.
Knights, Tigers in the Owen Craigie Cup.
There you go. Face the music brought to you by Sportsbet. As usual, give the boys a follow on all their social media, all their podcasts, and we'll go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.